here with the Vape Team Media. Of course, we're having some technical issues, which happens a lot lately here. I don't know what's going on. We're trying to get Stephanie in. We are going to have a guest. Field of Vapor is going to join us here in a little bit. But since we do have two of the wonderful Vape Team Media correspondents here with us, I'm going to start, of course, with my co-host, Mr. James Martin. What's up, James?
Hey, Dimitri. I feel like I just saw you. Literally just.
Yeah, well, you did. I must say that your beard is looking extra shiny today. I don't know, did you do anything special?
I did. I put a little bit of beard softener on it. I like to do that. You got to moisturize.
Oh, I'm on the... I am so bad. I'm so bad.
What did you do now?
I really am so bad. Let me go ahead and introduce Dane. I'll get back to your beard here in just a second. What's up, Dane?
Hey, Dimitri. How are you? How's everything? I missed you guys over the past weekend.
Yeah. I wish you would have been there with Texas with us. Me and James had a good time. I only got to spend Friday there. We'll get into some details here in just a few. First of all, happy birthday from me and James and everybody here and all the viewers.
Thank you very much.
Tell us about your wonderful birthday weekend.
It was great. My wife and I went to Las Vegas, and my lovely wife set up Penn and Teller tickets, and I got a chance to go to their show and meet and hang out with both Penn and Teller, which was outstanding for a geeky guy like me.
That is fantastic. I mean, I just never would have thought in a million years that your goal in life would be to meet Penn and Teller. I was kind of shocked about that, but...
It was, and I expected to take a lot of grief for it as well.
Well, you are about to. I'll just put that out there, yeah. But at least you got something off your bucket list.
That's right. Yeah, there was a few things, and there's still a few left, but hopefully, eventually, I'll get to those.
Did you get drunk?
No.
Did you get lucky?
That depends on the term lucky.
I mean, you did go to Vegas. Oh, look at that.
That's true.
Look at that. She's finally here. She made it.
Finally.
What's up, Stephanie?
Hey.
We didn't know if you were going to make it till last minute. I mean, having some Google Plus issues.
Yeah, I finally found a way to get in, so hey.
Well, first of all, Stephanie, how is your garage rebuilding going?
They just came out to measure the last piece, the flooring, today. So... everything's wired, and we had to rewire the entire house. So.
Really?
Yeah, it's been a huge ordeal, but we're in the last little piece. Everything's painted and wired in and works, and we're ready. So.
Well, that was an unfortunate situation. At least was the insurance able to assist you?
Yeah, it's just been dealing with them that's been so hard. You know what I mean? Going back and forth and having them, they had to come back out and redo everything because it was so much worse than we thought.
It's always a pain in the butt to deal with insurance companies for sure, but I'm glad things are coming along and hopefully you get back to your normal life. We kind of missed you. We haven't kind of interacted with you in the past couple of weeks, and we understand that you've been busy. How has your vape life been?
I've just been stuck in the same place. I haven't really tried too much that's new. I'm kind of out of the loop, so I'm really glad to be here and hear everything, what's new, what's happening. I just feel, I don't know, out of the loop.
Dane, has your vaping kind of been stuck? I mean, have you found something that you really like, and then you just kind of stick with it?
I seem to go through cycles with e-liquid that way. I find a juice that I really like, and I tend to really beat it like a dead horse and use it for a really long time. I've tried to stop doing that, but it's difficult. I kind of settle into a routine that I really like, and right now it's like 3 e-liquids, and that's the constant rotation for me.
Well, I mean, as far as e-liquid's concerned, it's, so subjective, man. It really is. And one thing I noticed over the weekend while we were in Texas, once again, James, I mean, I just can't keep up with these companies that are, it seems like every week there's like 100 new e-liquid companies.
Yeah, it seems like there's more and more every show we go to, and that's really not surprising when you think about the explosive growth of the industry. But one of the things that I think we both noticed there was everybody had a dripping line. That was like the new thing to do, I guess, is to produce a high VG drip line. And some of them are quite good. Some of them are quite interesting. But definitely no shortage of juice vendors.
Everybody that I saw, especially some of the older vendors, everybody has introduced the dripping line. And it's funny how some companies do it. Like some people will say high VG, somebody will call it an advanced user, somebody will call it premium, somebody will call it reserve, somebody will call it the uber super duper dripping line. But I mean, you drip, mostly exclusively, James, and you know that in higher VG ratios, you do lose a little bit of the flavor. And I guess to me, what would be premium is if you're able to get that high VG line, as high as VG as possible as you can, without losing the flavor. But if you vape like that, you go through 30 mils in 2 days.
Yeah, that's true. That's undeniable. I mean, especially with some of the dual coils or even quad coil drippers, when you get those setups, they literally just drink the juice. I mean, I've noticed that myself. I've been vaping a lot on the vapor flask with a K-Fun on it, and my liquid intake has reduced quite a bit. I find I'm only going through maybe a tank a day, versus with a dripper, if I was exclusively dripping on a dual coil atomizer, I might go through 8 to 10 mils. So, there's quite a difference there.
I got a couple of toys that I want to show. I got the big dripper, which is an automatic dripper, kind of like the 3D but reverse. The tank sits on top. It holds about 4 mils, and you'd be proud of me. I've got 5.6, James. I'm using organic cotton hemp, which actually works really, really good. I have some dual microcoils here built with 28 gauge Royal wire. Ah, look at that. But the dripper is not working very well. I mean, it's not really feeding that well, so I have to kind of like manually put the juice on there, but it's a good vape. The hole on this automatic dripper, I don't know if you can pick it up here on the camera, but I'm going to try to focus it for you. Look how small that hole is. So the e-liquid comes from that little hole that you see there on the top. So the idea is that you build your coils, put your cap on, and then you press down the cap, and then e-liquid shoots down through that hole into your reservoir. Now, I've seen a couple of reviews on this. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt, but especially, I mean, generally people that are going to use this are high VG users. I don't think there's any doubt there. Hey, Jake, how you doing, my friend? And that hole is tiny. I mean, and when you press it down, e-liquid's going to trickle, but it doesn't actually trickle right over your coils. It kind of falls into the reservoir. So you have to build your wicks to sit down on the tank, and then they have to get saturated and then fed up to your coil. I mean, the concept is great, but in reality, James, I'm having a little bit of hard time of feeding it from the top.
Yeah, and that was a question I had too. I saw the review that Twisted did on that, and he was actually at Vape Blast. I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but one of the things I noticed about that big dripper is, okay, you have posts for dual coils, but your feed hole is offset, and as you mentioned, it's very tiny. So if you push on that, liquid's going to come out very slowly, and it's only going to feed one side of the atomizer. So
Correct.
If you're somebody who loves dual coils, I don't know. I think there's some room for improvement there.
And I mean, I got to be honest. It's one thing that kind of bugs me about this thing is it's plain. I mean, it's like there's I don't know how to say this. There's nothing on the actual. It's very long. Okay, I mean, this is the atomizer piece. So if you're going to put it on a tube, I have it on the Linnea Hydra. It's going to extend it. I would like to see like a marking, like an engraving or something sexy on there. And I mean, it's just a plain stainless steel tube. But anyway, that's where we're at with this. I'm going to be playing around with it for a couple of weeks. By the way, I know people are going to ask about the wicking material. Here it is. Nix Wicks, 100% hemp, organic hemp for advanced atomizers. Nixwicks.com. Give it a shot. I've tried it. It hasn't bothered me. I have only dripped with it, okay? I have not put it in a K-Fun yet. Because I do believe, James, this would be a really good kind of amateur experiment to do. But I have noticed that with menthol juice, the hemp does not taste that good. Is there any science based on that?
I don't know, but I've noticed the same thing. Well, not with hemp, but with certain types of cotton. I've noticed that across a lot of flavors. to me, citrus juice, citrus-based juices don't have the same pop to them that I get off of either Genesis or Silica. That being said, there's some cotton that's better than others in my estimation. And, I was on with, I think it was Joey over on one of the Vapors.tv networks, and we talked about this a little bit. And I don't think it's all hype when people talk about Japanese cotton versus, cotton balls. I think a lot of it has to do with the way it's processed. Because, and you've noticed this too, Dimitri, sometimes you get that cotton taste. It can be bad. It can be almost like gym socks, which nobody wants. But menthol, yeah, there's definitely a couple flavors that taste a little bit off with certain materials.
I agree. So for me, so far, with like some high VG juices that I have been using and dripping exclusively, I have not had that cotton problem where my throat tightens up. When I tried it with menthol juice, and I'm glad I didn't commit it into a K-Fun, I did feel that, I don't know, it was the taste or if it was the vape, it just wasn't as good as Silica for flavor-wise. So Silica still in my K-Funs. We have a couple new features here that we're going to be using tonight. Of course, we do have our Twitter feed, and Jamie could not make it tonight. So I'm basically, me and James are kind of running things, so you're going to have to bear with us. We do have the Twitter feed. If you have any questions, at Vape Team, I'm monitoring that. And we also have this new thing. It's called the comment tracker. So if you leave a comment below here, and I'm going to put up an example here, we can bring it up here and we can answer the question. It says who the question was from. Of course, this one says tech problems. What is this? Clickbang. Obviously, my smoke-free radio hasn't been going that well the last couple of weeks either. Especially last week, smoke-free radio was horrible. I'm embarrassed for that episode. But we do have that option for you guys, and also the host can interact with you in the chat as well. So keep in mind that we will be monitoring that. And if James, Dane, or Stephanie, you see something, we can bring it up. We can certainly answer that question. All right. One more thing to show you that I got today. You're going to love this. All right. So this, of course, is my customized 722. This was sent to me by LA Vape Shop up in Canada. It does have a picture of me vaping on there. And one thing that I didn't show on Instagram is if I turn it around, tell me if you can see this. There is a beautiful, come on, focus. There is a beautiful naked woman on it.
I have not been paid for that photo. So.
And look at that. I mean, it is pretty sharp.
Where did you get that?
This was sent to me by the fine folks up there in Canada from LA Vape Shop. Just a bunch of nice guys. There we go. And she's actually pretty hot. That's why I can put my finger right there. And but sitting on top, this is just a 722 Sigeli mod. Excuse me, with XX22 chip inside. But on top of it is the Kanger tank. Aero Tank Turbo. This is the Turbo, James. So what is special about the Turbo? I'm going to show you right now. It looks like a Mega, but it's not a Mega. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first tank from China. By the way, getting this thing off is a pain in the butt. I just want to put that out there. Opening up this tank. I'll have a video of this on my YouTube tomorrow. Just a lot of people have been asking about it. So you kind of unscrew this ring. And look inside here, James. I mean, you're going to be shocked. Look at that. Look what it has in there.
Dual coils. Wow.
Dual Kanger coils. A dual Kanger coil. And every coil of these are dual coil Kanger coils. So this is a quad coil Chinese tank.
Wow.
Now, in all honesty, Dane, if I ever told you a year ago that we're going to have a quad coil clearomizer coming out of China, would you believe me?
No, and certainly one that would even vape. I would not believe it.
I was surprised at how good it vapes. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say how good it vapes. It vapes like a Kanger Aero tank. If you like a Kanger Aero tank, it's the same thing, only it goes through juice faster. I've tried the 0.8 ohm coils in it. So I put two of them. Automatically, the resistance, James, cuts in half. So it turned into 0.4, and it couldn't keep up. It was just
Right.
too warm, and it couldn't feed the coils inside. So they suggest that you use either the 1.8 ohm coils or the 2 ohm coils, and then you split them between and bring it down to, you know, 0.8 or 1.
Right. I would think that the 2.0s on a DNA 30 would probably be a really good vape.
They do suggest that you run it up in high wattages, and I do have it here in about 18 watts on this. It probably can go a little bit higher, but it's here with these two 1.8 ohm coils, I think they are. It's coming in at 0.9, so probably one of the coils is a little bit off. But about 0.9 ohms, hitting it at 18 watts, is putting out about 3.8 volts. And if I open up the airflow, I'll be able to vape it for you guys. It does have that same wheel where it exposes the airflow slots on the bottom base, kind of like the Kanger Tank Giant. And you can really, I mean, you can lung inhale this. This air is just wide open. So let me close it up a little bit because I don't like it that area.
Did they say how often you have to change the coils on those?
Well, I guess that's going to depend on what kind of juice you use and how quickly you gunk up your coils. But let me tell you something. I'm using 100% PG-free juice inside here, right? So this is a thick juice, and with the 2 coils, I'm not getting any dry hits. So I'm kind of shocked about that. The opening and closing is a little bit pain in the butt. But where are we going? Where are we going? This is going to lead into the best discussion. When you have China trying to play catch-up with sub-ohmers here in the States, that could only spell trouble. James, hit me up first.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, obviously they have some issues with quality control, and there's some companies that have gotten quite good at what they do, but that is not what they specialize in. And I don't know. I don't see it being good, especially something like that. Now, you know, you talk about how this accepts these plug-in coils, but obviously those coils have, you know, little plastic washers on them. They're not really made to handle the type of resistances that in a dual configuration that turbo can accept.
And not to mention those that rebuild their Kanger coils, because you know you're going to have that one guy. By the way, there's a new Facebook group called "Don't Be a Dumb Ohmer" instead of a sub-ohmer or dumb ohmer. Anyway, I'm going to start using that term because I like it. You know, you're going to have that dumb ohmer that's going to go rebuild these at like 0.4 and then put duals on this thing and have a 0.2 ohm quad Kanger Tech coil and stick it on a Crossfire battery, James, and then we're going to make the news.
You know, the crazy thing is you showed that, but quite honestly, with all of the tanks that I run, I'm not really getting below, you know, 1.0. Realistically, maybe some are like 0.8 or 0.9, but the design on the K-Fun with that very thin chimney section, it concentrates all the flavor, and it gets you enough heat even at a higher resistance. And you don't have the same airflow that you would in something like a dripper.
I want to put the question over here. No juice is 100% VG. That is correct. You can get 100% PG-free juice. Not all flavorings are suspended in PG. I think that is a misconception. There are organic flavors, there are alcohol-based flavors that you can get PG-free juice, but you can't get 100% VG juice. I totally agree. I just want to clarify that for some of you that might not know. Let me undo this here. I did that right. Stephanie, you know, I mean, you have no use for this. Do you have any use for a quad coil Kanger Tank bottom coil clearomizer?
No, not personally. It's not something I think I'd be interested in. Are the two pieces sold together? Like, is the Naked Lady with
Hey, don't be talking about my naked lady like that, lady.
It looked like she had a backwards baseball hat on. That was me. But are those two pieces sold together?
She's like an Indian woman. No, the mod is different. No, are you talking about the mod?
Yeah.
No. The mod was a custom job. It has my picture on it. What do you think? They're gonna sell a mod with a picture of it?
I can't see your picture. All I saw was the lady.
Okay. So there's the mural of my face.
Oh, now I see it.
And then it has my name on it right there.
All I saw was the naked lady.
Yeah.
Dimitri has been cloned. You can buy this mod from Alibaba now.
Well, I was going to say all they have to do is put a picture of a naked lady on it, and everybody will want it.
So, Dimitri, speaking of China, I actually, for the first time in a long time, purchased a product from China. And this is the D-Eagle.
Let me put your camera on. Go ahead.
Okay, this is the D-Eagle atomizer tank, and it's a dual coil deck on this. This is a rebuildable tank, and it's got a Pyrex glass sleeve. You can see your juice. It has airflow control. It actually has 3 airflow inlets below each coil, so it looked pretty interesting. And for $40, I figured I might as well give it a shot.
So does it work like a K-Fun? Is that the kind of build that you're doing it?
Yeah, it's very similar to a K-Fun, but it has this neat design for filling, which if you look here, you can see there's 2 holes, so you can fill it from the top, kind of like a Typhon GT.
Yep.
So pretty interesting. I figure I'll give it a shot, do a review, see what it's like. But
yeah, I'm sure some of our new users would love that on the YouTube page. Looking forward to that. Speaking of top filling, I got the DX cap from Avid Vape.
Very nice.
And that has the same system, and you just basically unscrew the top, and it has 2 holes, and then that way I don't have to take a K-Fun and fill it from the bottom with a screwdriver. But Dane, back to the Kanger Coil and the quad coil thing is, I mean, in all honesty, there is no new user out there or somebody that's transitioning to vaping that would have any interest in this. And this is clearly angled by Kanger Tech to the Sub-ohm crowd.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, and I agree with you, because a new user, first off, won't have a device to put that tank on. And if they do get a device to put that tank on, I think they're putting the cart before the horse, and they don't follow that natural progression of vaping. Like, obviously, some of us don't start out in EVODs and Ego batteries, but most do. And they're shooting way above the heads of the beginner user, and I understand the sector of the market they're going for, but the people who like those fractional builds and sub-ohm builds, they like to do their own, and they certainly don't want China doing it for them.
Well, that's the thing.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
I'm sorry. Who's going to really want that? And I'm not trying to be mean, but somebody that's going to want a sub-ohm build is going to want to build their stuff. Somebody like me is not going to want to touch that either. What's their angle? What's their market?
I don't think there really is an angle with them. I think that they're clearly trying to get into the market for the sub-ohmers, and they think that the people are going to buy it. But my biggest concern as somebody that cares about people transitioning is that a new vapor might see this and say that this is better for them. This is what they need to quit smoking. They might feel intimidated by something small. And then they pick up this device. They don't understand the laws of ohms and resistance. They're not going to be using the same battery. They might be using a bad battery. It might cause shorts, especially like James said with the silicone parts inside there and the pieces that can go wrong in a Kanger tank. It's just a bad idea overall, and that's what I'm going to say as well once I get done reviewing this product. Here's a question from the crowd. Let me put it back up. This is from Big Joe Kasulis. By the way, Kalispera Kalisperis. That's a friend of ours in Greece that is watching the show. Welcome, and nice to see you up at 4:20 a.m. in the morning. I've been having some serious problems with the replaceable coils from Innigan. They will do nothing because I bought the sealed factory coils from a non-authorized dealer. Anyone else? I will tell you, Joe, that there are fake coils out there, number one. It's something that happens in this industry a lot, not only with Kanger products, Innigan products, and so forth and so forth. And there's also a huge problem with quality control. I've seen it now with the Aspire coils, the BDCs that now Stephanie uses, I think, and my wife uses exclusively lately. I'm starting to buy them in 20 packs because it seems like every third one or fourth one is a dud. Stephanie, have you had the same experience with the BDCs?
I'm sorry, I couldn't get my microphone unmuted. No, I haven't had those problems that everybody else has. I don't know if I've just gotten lucky or if I'm always kind of late to the game. Maybe they've worked everything out before I get to it. I've not had that ever happen to me on a coil replacement yet. Knock on wood.
That's good. And again, I think it all falls down to quality control. You might get a batch that comes out of one assembly line that are crap, and then they get mixed up in the market. And in all honesty, Joe, if you're using, I mean, the 30B, I'm not a fan of. I think right now with the Aero tank out there in the market and the Aspire, I think those two tanks are going to dominate the market right now. And I would certainly suggest to you that you explore those two different options for your tank needs. The Anakin 30B never really made it into the market heavy, and I don't think it's one of the big players. Dane, would you agree?
Yeah, I do agree, because with the Nautilus and the Aero tank, both of which I use on a regular basis, there's no need to use the others. These are just far and away better, and the coils are better.
Yeah, and Dane, speaking of the Nautilus, I mean, I'm a big fan of the Nautilus Mini. I mean, that has been one of the first out-of-the-box tanks or clearomizer type systems that I've really, really liked. And I think one of the secrets to their success is they're using that, and I'm not sure what's in the Kanger. I don't have one, but the Nautilus is using that rolled up ceramic cloth with a filler, a cotton filler, and it just works really, really well.
It's the bottom vertical coil that they're using, and I guess that goes to preference, because flavor-wise, I still think that the Kanger coils have an edge, but I guess that falls down to preference. But it does work well. I agree. Both the Nautilus Mini and the big Nautilus tank and the Aero tank, I think they're premier right now, and I think they're setting the market. All right, enough about bottom coils. We have some serious stuff to talk about. I am going to screen share here, and we're going to talk a little bit about what happened in Texas. First of all, a huge thank you to Beggar White for making it possible for me and James to attend Vape Blast. We did shoot a lot of video, a lot of interviews. Some of them have already gone up on our YouTube page, thanks to Dane. We did do a great interview with Kasa and Julie and Alex Clark, kind of detailing what happens now after the FDA comment period. And everybody kind of thinks that we have this attitude of the comment period's over with, we're done. No. It's all starting now. Please watch the interview with Julie. It will be included into the footage and the rest of the stuff that we shot at Vape Blast. First of all, and again, thanks a lot to the organizers down there for having us. We always have a great time in Texas. Everybody's just, it's like everybody's so happy, James. Everybody's so welcoming and huggy, and we had a great time. Vape Blast 1.0 and 2.0 was just the same.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they say everything's bigger in Texas, and that includes the hearts of the people, because I know it sounds cheesy, but it's true. We've been there twice now, and you know, it's really interesting to travel to a different part of the country and observe the people and how they interact with each other. And one thing I will say, though, San Antonio, you got some messed up roads.
Yeah, that was a pain in the butt.
And all the side roads are named after radio stations.
Yeah, like turn on FM 102.3. I was like, what is going on? But that highway, like you had to do roundabouts to go across over. It was a little bit confusing. The event hall itself, not the best location in the world. It was a little bit flea market-ish type. But once inside and you're surrounded by vapors, at least there was one big room. Everybody was inside and we had a good time. It was great. Nothing really spectacular hardware-wise, which is now common because there's a meet every second weekend, and there's just no way you're going to see new equipment being released every second weekend anymore. But a lot of juice for sure to sample. Cutwood was there, Baker White, of course. They were doing the stage. They did a bunch of giveaways. Huge thank you to All About Vapor. They treated us really nice as well. Mother Vapor there, and Sean from Vape TV. They got Phil Busardo so drunk. It's just he started drinking as soon as we got to the event hall, James. And by the time we got to the bar, which I want to talk about, he was pretty much toasted. But they did invite us to this place, James, that was called the Cowboys Dance Hall. What was your impression of Cowboys Dance Hall?
You know what? From the outside, I didn't know what to think. It looked like a big storage warehouse, to be quite frank. But I couldn't get over the size of that place. I mean, you had a huge dance floor and then a stage, an elevated stage where you could have live performances. You had an upper level, which is where our party was located, with a separate bar. And then off to the side, you had a complete rodeo stadium with a dirt base and elevated stands. And it was almost set up kind of like an amphitheater in a way, and I believe they have concerts there. It looked like they did. They were playing some promotional stuff, and they had a mechanical bull, which I'm sure we'll be getting to sometime later in the show.
Sure. And we got to see Jake, one of our faithful followers here on Smoke Free Radio and, of course, on YouTube. He drove up, took 4 hours to get there and kind of hung out with us all day, and then he came to the bar afterwards. There were Smoking Crow was there at the bar afterwards. I was a little bit intimidated. I'll be honest with you, because you know, I mean, I generally don't. I'm not a jeans type of guy, and I'm generally with slacks and a dress shirt. And I would show up, and everybody's like wearing cowboy boots. so, and Phil has his little chicks with Wicks towel on. I'm like, well, we're gonna get shot. What are you doing? But the place was really nice. It was huge. It was cool inside there because it was really, really hot in Texas. And of course, there was the mechanical bull. We did convince Phil to get on the bull. But I'm going to tell you a little funny story that I haven't told publicly yet. While we're there, you know, there's a lot of people in Texas that wear cowboy hats. Dane, would you agree with that? I mean, it's Texas. Everybody wears a cowboy hat, right?
That's fact.
So Phil said, you know, I need to get a cowboy hat because all the girls, you know, they're looking at the Cowboys. I don't have any cowboy hat. So inside the club itself, it had a gift shop that sold Texas belt buckles and hats and, you know, all kinds of accessories. I don't know, whatever Cowboys wear. And so me and Phil go down there, and you know, it had like the $15 hats, the $20 hats, and then the $60 hats. So he said, I'm just gonna get like a $15 hat, you know, to just for the night. And I said, well, Phil, you can't do that. I said, you know, you're going to know you're going to be wearing a $15 hat. You're in Texas. You have to go big and get the best of the best. So he's trying on the hats now, and there's 3 girls that are working in this gift shop. He's trying out the hats, and he's asking the girls, do you think I look good? Do you think that the ladies would you know, like me with a hat like that? And of course they just want to make a sale. They're like, oh yeah, you look great. This is fantastic. You're so sexy. And he's turning to me and says, you see, I'm sexy. I'm going to buy this hat. So he ends up buying the hat, and you know, they have to shape it. By the way, I didn't know that when you buy a cowboy hat, there's like a steam machine, and they actually shape the hat when you buy it. It was a pretty unique process to watch. So he gets everything done, and he goes to the counter to pay. It all came with tip and everything, like $75. So I bend over the counter and I asked the girl behind her, I said, if he doesn't get laid tonight, can we get our money back for the hat? So as soon as she grabs the money from Phil Busardo, she turns and points on the wall, and there's a sign that says, all sales are final. They were all laughing to the bank. We put them on the mechanical bull, of course. The video is up on youtube.com/vapinggreek. I do have full footage of him getting on the bull, and he was a good sport about it. Overall, a great trip for the Vape Team Media in Texas. Unfortunately, Saturday, or fortunately for the people in Little Rock, because we had a great time there, I couldn't stay on Saturday, James, and I went up to Little Rock. I was speaking at Razor Vapes. Rob and Tammy, I had such a great time hanging out. They have a really nice community. A bunch of people came out for their anniversary party. They gave away, I think, like $5,000 worth of stuff, James. The guy gave away one of those Damascus atomizers. Have you seen? There's only like 5 in the world.
Is that the one that went on that mod, that Tree of Life mod, possibly?
It's the one, yeah. It's the one that's made of Damascus steel, and it took like 500 turns on the machine to make. He gave one of those away. I mean, it was pretty crazy. So I went over there to talk about advocacy and try to get organized in the state in Arkansas. They really need to get organized. There are a lot of shops. The community is growing. They should form some kind of a state organization, which is very, very vital right now. Unfortunately, the same night while I'm there, you started to text me, James, about something that happened. I'm going to put a screenshot up over here while you explain to us exactly. Since you were there, there's a lot of rumors of what happened. The guy was in the competition. The guy wasn't in the competition. What he was using. I'll let you run us play-by-play. You there, James?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay.
Were you playing a video at the same time, or did you just
no. I'm just going to show the screen here of some of the pictures while you're talking.
Okay. So yeah, Saturday evening, I was sitting at our media booth, which was probably about 20 feet away from the main stage, and I was talking to one of the vendors, and all of a sudden we just heard this very loud concussive boom, and the best way to describe it would be if you're at a fireworks show and those mortars are going off. You know how loud that can be?
Yeah.
Well, imagine you're close, you're 20 feet away, plus you're feeling that concussion going off where you can almost feel the air moving. And that's what it was like. And the first thing that happened, nobody knew what exactly had happened at that point, but we saw people rushing away from the stage holding their ears. And Vapor Digest has a pretty good write-up on this, except I believe in the article you mentioned that the crowd remained very, very calm. And nobody was in full-on panic mode, but people were getting the heck out of that area, understandably, because of what had happened. pretty soon I smelled something in the air, and I vented batteries on purpose in my backyard, done a controlled vent. And they have a very distinct smell when they vent, and that is the smell that I smelled. And Phil rushed over to the table where I was sitting to grab his camera, and he said, I knew this was going to happen someday. I knew this was going to happen. He picked up his camera and rushed back over to get pictures, but a mod had blown up. And from all stories and from what I can gather from the pictures, it appears to have been a copper mutant clone. And we're not sure at this point. Somebody put this together today. We're not sure at this point whether it really was an Imran IMR, because there's other pictures where you can see pieces of green insulation. However, the numbers seem to match what the Imran IMRs have on them. But one of the things that I wanted to address here, you know, if a battery vents in a properly ventilated mod, it does not explode as long as it's an IMR battery. That chemistry is very important. But if the mod does not have proper ventilation, that gas builds up, and eventually what you have is it's almost like having a piece of dry ice in a 2-liter bottle with a little bit of water. If you've seen those videos on YouTube, the same thing happens. Basically, it just explodes because there's so much pressure built up, it has no place to go, and that's where you get that catastrophic failure. So basically, this mod blew up. Apparently, the gentleman who had it dropped it because it was getting hot, according to eyewitnesses. The mod blew up. The top section of the mod and the atomizer actually blew through the hung ceiling, which is about 15 feet above the show floor. And part of the ceiling tile dropped down into the crowd. It continued to travel upwards about an additional 10 feet to the concrete upper deck of the building, where it struck the upper deck of the building. I am absolutely shocked that nobody was hurt. You know, there was debris all over, little pieces of copper, pieces of the battery, and it's just we're very fortunate that nobody was seriously hurt by that.
You heard about this story, Dane. Of course, when I heard it, I was like, "Oh crap, here we go." This is this is what we've been fearing so far. Your first thoughts, Dane?
Yeah, I was surprised, and I was certainly worried for the people that were around there, because as James had mentioned, the gases from batteries that come off is actually very noxious. And it's lucky that not only were people not struck by large pieces of shrapnel and things like that, but also overcome by some of these noxious gases that come off of the battery. And you know me, I'm not much of a sub-ohmer. I have a very healthy and maybe almost unhealthy fear of sub-ohming and venting a battery because of lack of experience. And you know, I don't foray into it. James will tell you, I ask him a lot, is this okay? Is this okay? And in my opinion, if I'm doing that, I shouldn't be sub-ohming. So, and I think the same applies here.
Stephanie, did you pick up on this story, by the way? I mean, did you hear about first of all what happened in Texas? You know, I want to get some of these rumors you know, out of the way so people won't be confused exactly what happened.
Yeah, I did. I saw it on Facebook. I hadn't heard about it before that. I think it was Flo from Swomesto that posted a picture about it, and then of course I watched Phil's video. And you know, I was just sitting here thinking, I am always overly nice. The most common question that I get on Facebook, social media, email, whatever, is from somebody that has no experience with a mechanical, and they just want to jump right into mechanicals. And I always answer it the same. I'm always like, well, I'm not the one to ask. I need to be much more... I never want to hurt anybody's feelings and say, you're not ready. You need to do your research. If you're asking me that question, you're not ready. But it just blows my mind that people don't even consider safety when using... That's why I don't use mechanicals. I know myself well enough to know that I don't know enough, you know.
Yeah, and you know, Dane and I discussed this. Dane, we talked about it for probably a good 2 hours on, I think that was Monday. And basically, you know, I'm a sub-ohm vapor. I vape sub-ohm, I vape standard resistance. The key here is education. And, you know, it's easy for somebody to get up on a pulpit and preach about how you shouldn't sub-ohm and, you shouldn't cloud chase, but the reality is the cat's out of the bag at this point. It really is, and I don't see us being able to change that. The best thing we can do moving forward is to educate people on battery safety.
I totally agree, James. My biggest concern now with these meats is, okay, I've said this many times. If you know what you're doing, if you know your basic understanding of Ohm's law and resistance, and you know how to rebuild, and there's a lot of people out there that do it well, I have no problem. The problem is when we get into these situations with these expos. There's a lot of new people there. There's a lot of media there. There's a lot of smokers there. There's a lot of ladies there. What image are we given, number one? Number two, who is responsible? Who ultimately is responsible if one of these devices, knock on wood, and I hope to God it never happens, but if one of these mods does vent or does explode and hurt somebody seriously or even kill them at some point? I mean, that is a question that really needs to be brought up with the organizers hosting these events. Where does the liability, if one of those pieces of shrapnel left and hit you in the eye and made you blind in one eye, who would ultimately be responsible? Dana, I'm going to start with you.
You know, ultimately, the responsibility lies with the vapor. But to qualify that, shops, when a vapor comes in and buys a device and looks to get into the world of sub-ohming, to me it is incredibly irresponsible to sell somebody a sub-ohm device and pour batteries without proper education. There needs to be more time taken in that shop atmosphere for them to do this. Now, obviously, if he bought it online, there's not much anyone can do about it. He needs to seek help on his own, which some don't. But really, to me, vendors really need to make sure that when they're selling a product to a vapor like this, that they are well-versed in safety, and especially what to do in the case of a catastrophic failure.
Stephanie, if you had brought in, your girlfriend from work, she's a smoker, and you want to kind of introduce her to the vape world and show her the device, and something like that would happen. I have a huge problem with that because I guarantee you she would turn around and says, "What the hell is this? I'm going to get the hell out of here."
That's exactly right. And that's the thing. When it doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter who's ultimately. I agree that the vapor is ultimately responsible. But the problem is when the media picks up on it, the court of public opinion is who we are accountable to. And of course, lawsuits would fly. That's going to happen. But all of this sways public opinion of us, which isn't so great anyway,
When has this when has this wonderful invention, this wonderful tool that helped us quit smoking, when did it turn into a hobby? When did it turn into a competition? By the way, this is roundtable. This is competition video here, by the way. So I want to put that out there. I'm going to start tagging everything competition from now on. My YouTube channel, it's a competition review channel. Vape Team Media, it's competition media. But James, when did this turn into, who's going to blow the biggest cloud? Half-naked men on Facebook posting 11-second videos of them blowing a cloud. And just today, just to give you an example of what effect this has on you people, okay? Just today I got a message from a guy in Greece, and his question is, I'm just going to read it straight from my Facebook. "Hello, Dimitri, I'm from Greece, and I'm a vapor, and I would like to do clouds. Can you tell me how to do it? I have a Vamo V5 and Aspire Nautilus." You have a Vamo V5, you're not smoking, you're happy. When did this turn into like everybody now wants to do clouds? Where did I miss that along the way?
Well, you know what? I think it's kind of a natural progression. I'm not going to say it's for the better, but if you look at things, when somebody gets a sports car, if they even have more than a passing fascination with trying to get it to go faster, they have an upgrade path that they're trying to follow. And one piece begets another, and then you end up with a car that's got 450, 500 horsepower and up. But one of the issues here is that, a lot of these cloud contests, and I know this isn't going to be viewed with favor from part of the vaping community, but it is what it is. I personally, and this may get on to another topic, I don't feel that cloud contests have a place at national meets. I really don't think so. If you want to do it in a vape shop, in a controlled environment where you can meter everybody's builds and you don't have 5,000, 6,000 people, in the case of ECC, like 20,000 people they're expecting this year, or numbers around that, you don't have the same amount of control over it. So unless you're going to hold your vape competition separated away from the rest of the crowd behind a hockey stadium type plexiglass barrier, I don't know how good of an idea that is. And I realize it's a great promotional tool for shops, but the reality is I don't know what these events can do to police this. And this gentleman supposedly he wasn't even participating in the cloud competition. He was actually just a bystander.
Yeah. I see. Here's a comment from the chat. The organizer's liability insurance would pay. The organizer and venue would be legally liable, and I totally agree with that. So, should the organizers stop allowing cloud competitions now in meets? I mean, that's where it's going to turn to, and I'm going to tell you why I'm bringing this up. I got a call from Kevin Skipper, that's organizing VCC here in Chattanooga, and he was generally concerned about this. Number one, Mike Morgan, Zen, called him and said, this is ridiculous. If they're going to start having competition, I'm not going to attend these meets. Which, I mean, that's his prerogative. He can do that. I mean, I kind of agree with him, especially in an expo type situation where we're trying to bring in smokers, we're trying to bring media in to show him that this tool helped thousands of people to quit smoking. I just don't believe that that they belong there. But it's going to take one of these event coordinators or event organizers to be sued for $10 million. For them to straighten up. Let me go ahead and bring in the guest. He's been waiting patiently over there. I know he has a lot of stuff to say about this topic. If you can unmute yourself. Joining us now is Mr. Michael. You might know him as Field of Vapor. What's up, Michael?
What's going on, Dimitri?
We're doing well. I'm a little bit upset. I'm a little bit ranty, but hopefully you'll be able to come in here and just blow up my blood pressure a little bit more.
Well, I messaged you earlier this week, and I think you could tell that I was a little upset. I think I said a long time ago when sub-ohm vaping first hit the scene, and people weren't really doing extreme sub-ohm vaping, right? They were just 0.8, 0.7, 0.6, and it's funny to think now that well, that's not that bad, right? That's not you're not that bad if you're at 0.8. But I said in the beginning that somebody's going to get hurt, and I think maybe I was wrong then, but I don't know if I was wrong because I don't know, if anybody has had any catastrophic failures at 0.8 ohms. But I think that when you get to a point where your mod heats up to the point where you need a towel to wrap around it so that you can press the fire button, that you've taken this to a point where it's just a little bit beyond a cigarette replacement or harm reduction.
Yeah,
and
certainly.
Moving towards something that is just, in my mind, a little ludicrous.
I've seen that guy that you're talking about, by the way, that's wrapping the towel around the Congestus with twin 26650s, and I was going to play the video, but screw him. I don't want to give him any more attention, really. Yeah. And let me just put this out here, Michael. When me and you started to vape, 1.5 was low resistance, for crying out loud. 1.5, the miracle of the 1.5 low resistance Cisco Spec Addict, that was low res, right? It would drain our 18650s in 5 hours, and we were upset. What the hell happened? I mean, there's no way that this guy's going to show me. By the way, I agree with Phil Basardo. He did the video, and he talked about these little ohm meters that, people are building 0.05. There's no way that's not a hard short. I don't care who you are. That is a hard short. But you're building this 0.05, and you're putting it on this ohm meter thinking that you got an accurate measurement. And then you're putting that stress on the battery thinking you're vaping at 5,000 watts or whatever you think, which is not true, by the way, okay? Because the lower the resistance of the atomizer, it's going to draw more resistance from the battery. You're not actually getting the voltage to the coil that you think. And that's just
more resistance science. Mod, too.
I'm sorry?
more the resistance in the mod matters more.
Sure.
The resistance in your atomizer.
Your battery has an internal resistance as well.
Sure, yeah.
Battery internal resistance, like everything, the cumulative resistance starts to matter much more when your coil resistance is that low. There's probably instances where people are wrapping coils that have lower resistance than the cumulative resistance of the battery, the mod, and the metal in the atomizer, and that's what's most likely, and again, I'm not an electrical engineer, but I imagine that that's why that mod is heating up so much. I guess I see a problem, and I think I know where the problem came from. So, like, I guess my first question would be, why do people sub-ohm? So, does anybody have opinions on why they think that people sub-ohm?
All right, I'm going to go ahead and start first. And a lot of people might get offended by this. I'm not saying everybody does, but I think the majority of the people is a penis measuring contest. They just want to show, and for lack of a better term, since we are on Vape Team and not Smoke Free Radio, is, they want to, extend their manhood through the cloud that they're blowing. I think that's a lot has to do with it. I'm not saying everybody does that, but I think a lot has to do with that. Dane.
Yeah, I would have partially agree with that as well. I think there's a few factors that go into it, and being a grouchy old curmudgeon guy, I think I can say this, that a lot of the younger people that are getting into this immediately are the ones that are cloud chasing before they even try any other products. And I think a lot of that has to do with it as well. At least that's what I see from the demographic here. Now, don't get me wrong, there are responsible cloud chasers out there, and I was at a meet just recently in Tucson, and it was very controlled, very safe. Everybody's builds had to be inspected. They looked at them, and it went off without a hitch, safely and everything. And that was why I congratulated them so much, is that is what really needs to be done. There needs to be some types of checks and balances before this begins. Now, unfortunately, that's not going to stop the rest of the people that are out on the floor. Only vendors and support reaching out from the rest of the community is going to help those types of folks.
Stephanie, your thoughts? Why do you think that sub-ohming has become such a popular culture?
Well, I used to.
Did we lose Stephanie?
Agree.
Okay. Can everybody hear Stephanie?
I think Stephanie's breaking up right now.
All right, we'll go back to Stephanie here. I think she's frozen on my my video. James?
I think we have a mind just one and it'll be happy and I want to be. So try everything new.
Stephanie, you're breaking up a little bit. Stand by.
I never thought about collectible frames.
I don't think she can even hear us right now.
Okay, somebody messaged her. Dane messaged her on Skype. James, your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a difficult subject for me because I like to sub-ohm, but I have for a long time. Since I've been using RBAs, I mean, realistically, my first one was a Golden Greek Odysseus, and I used to run that at 1 ohm, and then sometimes at 0.8 ohms. For me, I like the heat. I like the density. It's something I enjoy. I'm one of those guys who smoked a cigarette really fast when I smoked. I mean, it was basically almost lung inhaling a cigarette as well. But I enjoy it, but I think it needs to be done responsibly.
And James, I know you sub-ohm, but let's be honest. I mean, we've talked about this a million times. You don't have to go 0.05 to blow clouds.
No, you don't. You don't. A lot of it has to do with the surface area of the coil that is touching your wicking material. And once you reach the atomization level of that juice, you hit a point of diminishing returns anyway, because you're going to dry out your medium used for delivery anyway.
Once you pass the boiling point of the juice, you're really not doing anything more than that.
Yeah, you know what? The thing is, Dimitri, I'm not going to go out there and say it's all, penis measuring contest.
I didn't say all of it was.
Now, vape contests, the cloud blowing contests, I agree with you on that. Certainly they've become a promotional tool for the industry, and I don't know whether that's all good. Obviously, it isn't because we had this incident, but you hit a point of diminishing returns. I think the only thing we can do, and I said this when we started talking about this topic, is just educate, because there's safe ways to do lower resistances. And I've got this is a 0.26 build on this Tobe right here, and I'm running it on a box that has dual parallel batteries, so I'm only getting that 3.7 or 4 volts off of these batteries when they're freshly charged, but I'm cutting my ohm load in half, so I'm pulling much less than the total ohm load.
That's a nice little box. Where'd you get that? I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, that was actually at Texas. It's kind of nice.
Is that the 3D? The 3D box?
Yeah, it's a 3D printed box,
yeah,
and it's got your voltage and then your voltage under load right there.
Pretty neat. All right, let me get back to Stephanie here since she's back and give us her thoughts.
Well, hopefully I'm back. I'm not sure.
Yes, you are.
I always thought of it like you did, that it was kind of, that measuring contest, that mindset of just one more. If I get one more mod, it's going to be the perfect mod. I'm going to be in the perfect place. And I used to do that in the beginning. I haven't ever sub-ohmed, so I can't really speak to that. But I used to have this mindset of, if I just get a DNA device, that's where I'm going to want to be at.
Yeah. But
I also think there's this whole new thing, and James really kind of is the model for this. He's really, truly a collector. So I think there's, the whole creativity behind building and just the crazy, insane coils that you see. It really does, for some people, become a hobby. Sure. So I think there's kind of two categories with that.
I mean, Michael, you go to there's gun expos every week across the United States. You never see anybody firing a gun inside, or at least not to my knowledge, and they still go on. So, there's a right place and the right time to do it, and there's a correct way of doing it, but it's just not happening. There is nothing over there that's preventing this from happening again. I saw something ridiculous today. Somebody put a petition up to ban clothes at ECC, which I thought was I thought that was completely ridiculous. But Michael, what do we do? Is there a solution to this?
So here, before we get to that, I want to throw something out on the table, and tell me what you think of this. All of you can throw in your 2 cents. I believe that the rush to the bottom for resistance came from the fact that vaping has never been the same as smoking, and in a specific way. And that way is that when you took a 1.5-second puff off of a cigarette, you got that smoke, you inhaled it, it was good, and you blew it out. With the e-cigarette, you took a 5, 6, 7, 10-second puff, depending on what you were using, and you maybe got a decent amount of vapor, but it didn't approximate smoking. Now, when they lower that resistance, the speed at which the coil heats up, right, sort of approximates smoking. So I think that before it was, measuring your manhood, right, I think that the original push lower in resistance came from people saying, oh, if I lower the resistance, it heats up faster, and this is more like smoking. I take shorter draws, right?
Yeah.
And then people saw that they could get an exorbitant amount of vapor. And then all of a sudden it was, how big of a cloud can you blow, and how far can you blow, right? And then the competition thing happened. And when you have competition, right, that's where I think you get to what you guys have been talking about. I think that you get to a point where people go beyond what they need to go to, right, in order to get a satisfying vape, in order to show off their build, in order to show off how much vapor they can make, how far they can blow that vapor, how dense that vapor is. And let's also be honest that, you know, the camera makes the vapor look much more dense than it actually is.
Sure.
Yeah.
So especially if somebody blows it directly at the camera. But I think that originally it was, let's try and, you know, oh, look what I found. It's more like a cigarette. And the reason why I bring that up is because, I'm going to be quick here, somebody told me to get some 22 gauge wire recently. And I went and I bought it, and I didn't even know, I used 26 gauge. And I went and I wrapped a dual coil, and I think it ohmed out at 0.2 ohms. This is lower than I've ever vaped at. And I took a couple hits off of it, and at first I was like, oh my god, this is too much. And then after a little while I got used to it, and I was like, this feels a lot more like smoking than, you know, using my, you know, setting this sucker right here to 11 watts with a 2 ohm Aspire Mini tank on top. And so that was sort of like an aha moment for me. But I think that where it got out of hand is the competitions. And I think that, you know, that has been the worst thing that has happened to our community in the past year or so.
Sure. Here's another interesting point from Kalisperis. For me, it became a trend when clones arrived. Mechanical clones and RDA clones that are accessible to anyone. That's a very good point, and something that nobody has brought up yet. Maybe the limited availability of mechanical mods a couple of years ago, James, and the price point of them kind of deterred from people from diving into it like this head first. Do you agree with that viewpoint, James?
Certainly. I mean, the mechanicals that were on the market at that point, at least the higher-end, nice-looking mechanicals, were prohibitively priced for, you know, just anyone. So I think that's true.
I see. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this. Somebody that's brand new, starting off with a K100, a 0.2 ohm build, and a Camry battery. I can't tell you how many times I've seen it. I mean,
Sure.
it's to the point where it makes me disgusted. It makes me so sick to see it.
And Dimitri, that's one of the things I wanted to bring up. I was talking to a guy online about this, and he said a local shop where he works, somebody came in with a K100 with a quad coil dripping atomizer with a 0.13 build on it using a Trustfire battery.
That's unbelievable.
It was a Trustfire 18650, 1500 mAh. And you can go and look up the specs on the battery. The continuous amp rating is 7.5 amps. So, you know, that was sold to him. He got this guy's story, and this guy is a relatively new vapor. He said, I want the clouds. He went to a shop, and that is what they built there. So,
I saw this as well in Little Rock, by the way. I just want to put that out there. In Little Rock, there was a new vapor there, had a clone mod. With a 0.2 ohm build, and he had one of those red E-Fests inside. Yeah. And I told him, I said, listen, if you don't have the money, I'm just going to go back there and buy you a Sony VTC5, man. I just do me a favor, take that battery out of your mod and throw it away. Or keep it for a variable voltage device, or if you have you know, something else that you can use it. But please don't use it inside there. But that, you know, I understand it makes it more accessible for people to get into it, which is great. I think it's a wonderful thing. Whatever you can afford to buy. But one thing that you can't do, I mean, for crying out loud, for one thing that you can't do, as a vendor, number one, is sell this crap to people, and number two, as a vapor, at least invest in a good battery. I mean, we're talking just, James, the price difference between a good battery and a bad battery is just a few bucks, isn't it? Worth your nose?
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, and this gets me into my rant mode, which this is the statement of the night for me. If you're relying on the pulse rating of your battery, you're doing it wrong. That's just my opinion, but
that's not an opinion. No, that's not an opinion. My God, this.
Does it seem like common sense to you, Mike?
It does seem like common sense to me, and it just makes me like. Sometimes I'm like, are people really that stupid?
Yeah.
But in a way, they may not know about batteries, and they need to feel like they're doing something that's safe, right?
Right.
And when the sub-ohm vapors were not going too low, then everybody referenced the continuous discharge, right? And now that they're surpassing that,
yeah,
right? They're like, oh, okay, now it's pulse.
Right. And
they're gonna have to they're gonna have to come up with some other fake number to put on websites that's higher than the pulse.
well, the crazy thing too is with that pulse number. I mean, you have wild variances from manufacturer to manufacturer on the duration of the pulse, as well as the amps that it can handle. Plus, to throw it into the mix, you got this whole situation with eFest with those 35 amp batteries, and they've got the LGs, and then they have and Mike, maybe you know this, I think it's the Panasonics. Well, there's a big difference there. They advertise the pulse rating as the actual sustained amp rating on those batteries. And the big issue there is you have the rewrapped LG HE2 battery, the 18650, that has a 20 amps continuous discharge. So that's not totally heinous. But then you switch over to the Panasonic, which is a BE battery, that has a simultaneous what's the word I'm looking for? The continuous discharge rating is 4 amps on that battery. So you're setting yourself up for disaster if you're not paying attention to these things. But realistically, there are other ways to go into those not extreme sub-ohm, but not going to the fractional builds, but getting to that 0.3, 0.4, 0.2 safely. It's just you have to educate yourself if you're going to venture into that direction.
Certainly. Here's a question from Twitter. We have tons of innovative ideas coming out for vaping products, but a very limited amount of innovation on batteries. Why is that? Do you believe that the build community and the hobbyist community is just outpacing the battery technology, Michael?
Are they outpacing it? I think they're using batteries that weren't meant to be used in the way that they're using them.
Yes.
I think that battery manufacturers may not even know how they're being used, or may be finding out just recently how they're being used and aren't giving their blessing on how they're being used.
Yeah, and I heard some batteries are being pulled. I don't know if they're being pulled because people are using them to sub-ohm. Somebody told me that the Sony VTC5 is being pulled. I don't know if that's true or not, James. Have you heard anything like that?
I've heard that they discontinued production, that the cells were never intended for this application, but they had discontinued production a while back. So any VTCs that are out there are actually old stock. I don't know whether that's confirmed or not. That was via Reddit, and it was a rather long thread. I didn't read through all 30 pages of it.
Yeah, I think I read that too. And I think that I read some stuff some other places. And here's the thing is, I read it somewhere, right? So I don't know if it's true, but I read somewhere that those batteries were actually part of packs for laptops. And that it's basically they're breaking them apart and selling them, and that they haven't been sold by Sony for like 3 or 4 years or something like that. And then also somewhere else that I read said that they weren't even Sony batteries.
Yeah,
right?
I've read that too.
So who do you believe when it comes to batteries? All right.
Here's a comment from somebody that I want to put out there. Using Li-ion batteries with no protection on mech mods is dangerous. Using them responsibly is just less dangerous, James. I mean, there is a danger. There's always an imminent danger doing this type of activity with a mechanical mod and any battery, right?
Yeah, because you have a resistance circuit. You're heating up a circuit, so you're basically doing the same thing that a toaster does when you press down on that lever. And the ludicrous thing here is when you go into those builds, and somebody said this guy's build was like a 0.05 or 0.06. We have no way of confirming that. But let's say it was. Then you're talking about wattages that approach what an air compressor uses when you plug it into the outlet, and you're sticking this thing up to your face.
Yeah.
So it's a common sense issue also.
And you know what, James? I mean, when you look at the rubble from that mod. Does that not scare the crap out of you?
Sure.
I
Sure,
mean,
it does.
I never really thought. I mean, I thought maybe battery vents and it flies off somewhere as a rocket, and then I go pick it up, right? And it's fine. I take the battery out, I clean it up, and it's good to go. But this thing looks like it broke apart and sent shrapnel. I mean, I was not there.
Yeah, I mean, it was shrapnel. But here's the thing, Michael. I've caused a battery to vent in a controlled environment before, and basically it was an AWIMR. It was a 1600 mAh. I think it was 16 or 18. I'm not sure what the higher amp rating battery has as far as capacity, but I caused it to vent. I basically short-circuited it. And the first thing I noticed is, of course, it got very hot. The insulation melted off. After about 20 seconds or so, it started leaking a little bit of that electrolytic solution inside the cell. It was pooling up underneath. And then it started venting gas. And the gas towards the end was venting very violently, but it did not explode. I did the same thing with an orange MNKE. Same conclusion. It did the same exact behavior. But when you have those in a device, and that device is machined with very, very tight tolerances, it fits in like a glove, okay? So there's no wiggle room. And your vents are at the bottom of the switch. What happens? What happens when it heats up? It swells a little bit.
Sure.
And then you have gas, and people are going to correct me when I say this. The vents are at the top of the battery. The battery is going to vent from the point of least resistance, which means usually it vents from the top. That gas has got to have some place to go. Hopefully there's a little bit of tolerance. You hear that wiggle?
Yeah.
Okay? People would say this is cheaply machined because there's wiggle in there and they don't like that. But it's reassuring to me because if my battery vents and this works as designed, that gas will flow down, come out the vents in the switch, and it's not going to build up excessive pressure.
Here's a comment from the, I don't know, this is kind of funny to even read, for the Sony VTC5s. They have to move the factory since it was contaminated from Fukushima. They built a new facility in the Philippines, and it's still, I don't even, I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, it just sounds funny. But let's go back to the original discussion, all right? Let's go back to of course, the purpose of this show has always been to be educational and just give our opinions on things. When we're talking about meats now, there's been, various things thrown out there. I heard, James, and please confirm me if this is true or false, that after this event happened in Texas, they were going to continue on with the cloud competition.
Yeah, they were, and fortunately they decided to change course, and the gentleman, and actually I believe, Dimitri, you may have seen him there, the gentleman from Killer Mods, Awe Vapor, which actually had some very nicely machined mechanicals there. He's been vaping for quite a long time now, back to like the teabag and blue foam era, and he knows a lot about battery safety. They ended up calling off the cloud competition on Sunday, and they had a battery safety class instead, which I think was very much needed.
Here's another comment that I want to put out here for the stick to the facts and quit gossiping. I like that. That's good, because that's how rumors get started in the vaping community, all right? What happened is everybody got food poisoning in the factory, and...
Yeah, don't you hear? He was vaping in Manhattan. It's that Romero vape.
But Dane, jump in here. When we're talking about these meats, right? I mean, there's just really no way to control this, because even if you do control the cloud competition, let's say, and you do check the resistances, I mean, accidents can happen at any time. Plus, you might have people that are walking around blowing clouds. You can't. I mean, are we going to get to the point where we're going to have a couple of pretty girls at the entrance of an expo to check the resistance of your atomizer before you come in? I mean, it's silly at this point.
Well, no, but a good point was brought up in chat earlier, and I'd certainly like to echo that sentiment, is that eventually the liability cost of insurance for these events is going to skyrocket. It is going to go through the roof, and there are going to be venues, especially hotels, with people and other guests staying there that do not want to put anyone else in harm's way because of uneducated vapors. And that will certainly pose a major problem to major meets in the future. It is impossible to check at the door. And there's no way that you can do it. I mean, you can't go in somebody's pocket. We're not, this isn't a police state. All we can do is trust our fellow vapor beside us that they knew that what they were doing when they built that coil, and they put that or modified that mod when they came into the meet, and hopefully nothing catastrophic will happen.
Yeah, good luck with that. By the way, speaking of hotels, James, I'll get back to you because I got to tell you, this is a little funny story, and let's break a little bit the seriousness of it. I had 2 hours of sleep. I flew down to Texas. I left 4 o'clock in the morning from Chattanooga. By the time we got to the rental car with James and picked up the car and got to the hotel, it was about 1:30. The event started at 5 o'clock, so I figured I'm going to go to the room, take a couple-hour nap, so I'll be good to go for Vape Blast. And as soon as I lay down, I had just laid down, turned the TV on, beep, beep, fire alarm in the hotel. So James now is concerned, so he messages me right away. He boxes me and he says, "It wasn't me. I'm on the toilet whooping." So I said, "That's a powerful cloud. If you can set off the alarm from the crapper, James, you should just win the cloud competition right now."
Oh Lord!
But James, I got that Voxer message too, because all it said from James, I wasn't even at the meet. I was still in Arizona getting ready to leave, and I got a Voxer message from James with a sound in the background going, "I didn't do it. I didn't do it."
That's great. But, I mean, seriously, these hotels, I know here Kevin Skipper for the VCC is not going to assign a hotel that's based on the event. And the reason why he won't do that is that every time we've done that, there has been issues, and it gives vaping a bad. Just book your own hotel, and if you go get in trouble, at least don't blame it on the event itself, because they're going to start making the correlation now between the hotel that's been booked by the event and the event itself, and that's bad. Why should one dumbass that is setting off alarms in the hotel give a whole bad rap to the entire event that's going on in whatever particular city it is, James?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And, I talked to, I'm trying to remember who it was. It was one of the vendors' wives, and she said they had actually booked themselves into La Quinta Inn, which was it was 3 or 4 miles away from the whole area where the convention was, and there were no fire alarms. And she said that's what she's going to do from now on.
That's what I'm going to start doing from now, too.
Yeah.
I'm going to start looking somewhere, 10 miles away. Don't put me on that same bad rap. Here's another comment from one of the viewers. Controlling a cloud competition will reduce the risks. It will not remove them all. I think that is true. I mean, that if you can at least control the builds that are coming to a cloud competition. At Little Rock, they had a cloud competition. The guy that worked there, great staff, by the way, over there at Razor Vapes. I had such a great time. He checked every atomizer by himself. Not only did it put it on the ohm meter, he was tightening down the center post because, sometimes the resistance plays around, James. So he took extra time to make sure the builds were not low. And a guy did come with like a 0.1 ohm lower than what they allowed, and he did not allow him in the cloud competition.
Right.
But, go ahead.
That kind of brings me to the point that I had, and I pasted this in chat too. I feel like this should be treated like NHRA or NASCAR, where everybody is running the same resistance or around the same resistance, because I understand there's variables. If you want to run it higher, that's fine, but no lower than a certain point, because otherwise it kind of takes the competition out of the thing. You're just basically seeing who can go the lowest and who has the biggest lungs. This way it comes down to lung capacity and airflow and things like that instead.
Wouldn't it be cool to have Stephanie would have a lung measuring piece of equipment that vape meets from now on, and everybody's gonna wear what is your lung capacity? Well, my lung capacity is 2 liters of vapor. I don't know how they're gonna measure that, but
well, Stephanie, I have a question.
Yeah.
James, somebody sends you, let's say they send you an email and they say, I want to get into mechanicals. What do you tell them?
Well,
I want to get into sub-ohming and mechanicals. What do you, where's the starting point? Are there websites that they can read up on this? Battery safety?
Yeah.
What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, there's the Battery University has a lot of good stuff on it. There's a channel on YouTube, and I'll try to put this in the description of the replay. I think it's called Pegasus Vapor Academy. That's a great resource as well. They need to read up on the safety first, and then if they
Right.
hit me up for links for products, I'm a big fan of the copper vanilla mod. I think it's got sufficient provision for venting, and it's a solid device. And it really comes down to talking to them and finding out what they're looking for. But certainly, I'm not going to advocate that they go as low as possible for a given battery type. It's
That was my
baby
next
steps.
question.
Yeah.
That's my next question. What do you suggest that they try to stay around ohm-wise for their first build?
It really depends on airflow, because again, if you get something that has like stock IGO W air holes and you put a 0.5 on it, it's going to be a very, very uncomfortable vape, because you need to have the airflow to dissipate some of that heat.
Kevin, I missed your comment, by the way. If you want to post it on Facebook, I'm trying to scroll down, but it only let me scroll down so much. So Kevin,
I've got it right here,
okay.
Dimitri.
Right.
Yeah, he was referring to insurance for VCC events.
Yeah, he says, just to put this out there, the first 2 VCC events, no problem getting liability insurance. Checking it into it this week, already been turned down once.
See, that's what's going to happen, and hotels are going to kick us out. Event halls are going to kick us out. I mean, it's becoming a roller coaster. And speaking of what's becoming a roller coaster, let me share this with you here that I want to talk about. I don't want to get off too much off topic, but this is kind of the same. Now they're calling e-cigarettes flight hazards. I'm going to try to make this a little bit bigger so you people can see it. I'll have all these links in the replay description. But the airport officials met with local Federal Aviation Administrations to ask for an investigation on something that caught on fire. It was it might have been a battery, it might have been an e-cig. They really haven't determined what the cause of this. I just want to put that out there because this story is a little bit misleading. They have not determined it was an e-cig, okay? But they are talking about the batteries that were used, and which I find a little bit funny, okay? Because we board a plane. Let me stop my script sharing here. We board a plane with. By the way, I don't know if anybody could see that. Anyway, but anyway, when we board a plane, we have a laptop on us with us, Michael, that has 6 18650s in it. I mean, at what point do we regulate this as far as they're going?
It's even worse than that. 6 18650s. That's not what's in laptops anymore. They're lipo packs, which is even more volatile.
Yeah.
And I think that what you have is in laptops and phones, you have protection, right?
Yeah.
And in a mechanical mod, you don't have protection. In some electronic mods, they say there's protection. Is there protection?
We don't know.
Like we don't know. So because it's not treated the same way that other electronics are treated. And I guess I never even thought about that, like a battery exploding on a plane. That's kind of scary.
Well, it certainly is. I mean, if you have a mechanical and you've James, you've put your safety switch on, whatever, and it fails for whatever reason,
right?
And you have a 0.2 ohm and it's hitting there for 15 seconds, it's going to cause a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't want to be on that plane. I'm traveling a lot lately. I want my babies. I want to see my daughters become brides. I don't want to be on that plane, please.
Okay, can I it's funny that you bring that up, because I have this thing, and maybe it's a personal thing for me, but my fiance vapes, and she uses a Nokia 1280 Ego battery.
Uh-huh.
And and I feel pretty safe with that, with her using that.
Yeah.
And she knows how to turn it off, to put it in her bag and everything. But I am nervous anytime I'm using a mechanical mod to ask her, even with the battery or with the button locked, to hold my mod. Because she has a pocketbook. I don't have a pocketbook. So she has an easy way to carry things around. And I have jeans, and I don't really want to put my mod in my jean pocket, But, even yesterday we were out to dinner, and, I have a DNA 20 mod that I know is turned off, and, I asked her to put it in her bag, and I said, can you put it in a pocket that doesn't have anything else in it, not for protection of the mod, but for I don't know if like some little metal flakes could get in through the holes or something like that. I don't know what's in her bag. There's everything in her
Nobody knows what's in a woman's bag.
Exactly. So like, I am afraid to let my fiance hold my e-cig for me, even if it's an electronic mod. Just because, God forbid, something were to happen and she's carrying that at her side and were to get hurt. I certainly use more advanced devices than she does. And, it's just the thing that pops into my head.
I'm fearful too. I really am. And I've thought about this one time. I don't remember where I was going, but I did have a mechanical mod with me, and I was concerned the entire time if I had put the lock switch on, and I normally do. But I mean, take the batteries out of your devices when you're flying. I mean, that's a good safety. Use your little plastic protectors, put your batteries inside so they won't touch anything. That's basic stuff. But I know not everybody does it, and unfortunately, it's not controllable now. I mean, there is, obviously there's no regulation, but it's really not a controllable thing. When I fly, I used to take 20 devices with me when I was going to these. I don't do that anymore. I'll take 2 mods with me now. A couple sets of batteries or something that's USB chargeable. I'll charge it while I'm at the hotel room, and I just I try to be more to be a little bit more safe myself when I travel. But not everybody thinks that way, and if everybody thought that way, we wouldn't have any problem. But obviously, not everybody does. Yeah. And again, I hate to bring it back to the meat, James, because the meat to me is important. I mean, these meats are growing. We're getting thousands of people. It's good for the industry. It's good for vaping, and it's good for smokers. But you can't think that this is not going to happen when there's going to be a news group inside there, and they're going to capture this on video, and it's going to be on CNN for 3 days straight.
Sure. Yeah, that's a very real concern. And frankly, I'm not sure how they're going to handle it. This is the first meet anywhere, large or small, that I've attended where this has happened. Obviously, there's tons of documented cases where batteries have vented, and there's tons of undocumented cases where somebody doesn't even want to admit what happened in their basement or when they were walking around with one of these things. But it's a very real concern.
Do you honestly think, Dane, if the TSA knew that you have a device that once you activate that switch draws that many amps into a little coil, do you think that would be allowed? I mean, just from common sense, I don't think it would.
No, it wouldn't. And as soon as these deeming regulations and recommendations to Congress are being made, you can bet your bottom dollar that the FDA is going to say just that to the federal government, and especially in TSA, and not allow them at all. And when they're scanning luggage, they'll certainly look for them harder than what they do now, especially for mechanical mods with batteries left in them or even without them, and then atomizers with coils that are open like that on the top.
What if they, yeah, go ahead, James.
Yellow Horse brought up a good comment there. I don't know if you saw it on the side, but let me see if I can find it here. Nobody's talking about the batteries failing on impact. The battery will fail if it is dropped on the floor the wrong way. Hit one with a hammer and see what happens. Obviously, don't hit it with a hammer.
Please don't.
But he's right. That is another way they can fail. And what happened, supposedly this mod heated up. The first instinct this guy had was to throw it to the floor. So that could have compounded the issue as well.
I tell you what, I tried to take a pull off James Mod in Texas, and how much, I don't know. Maybe I'm old, Dane. Maybe I'm old school. But as soon as I hit that slug and I was hearing that crackling noise, I put it up to my mouth. Under a second, I just couldn't vape on it. I mean, again, that's just me, James. Nothing against your build.
You are not alone. I can't either. I've tried his mod before, and I thought I was gonna hack out a lung.
But the biggest fear, I guess, Michael, to change the subject a little bit, is how do you trust, number one, specs? We know China is full of bullshit. I mean, we know that. We see it from the devices. We see it from the batteries that they've sent in the past, how many times that they've failed, how many times they've put a product, like the Vapro or other products out there on the market that are not safe. Even with this IPv2 now, There's been incidents of this is a regulated device with a chip in it that's melting, or it's auto firing, or all these other problems. How do you trust the specs of what the battery is going to tell you, number one, and all the other variables that come with vaping, the wire, the connections on your mod? I can't trust them. I can't trust some other models as well. I'm not going to say I trust everybody, but I certainly can't trust the quality and the performance based on this sheet that's being sent to me by, from Shenzhen, China.
You can't trust anything that is written on a vaping retail website in regards to battery specs. You can't trust. Here. Okay, think about it. Okay, everybody is going after these higher amperage batteries, right? So if you're China, you're like, okay,
Yep.
let's take those batteries, let's say that they're blah, blah, blah amperage, we'll send this sheet that says it's blah, blah, blah amperage to, this vendor, and we'll send the batteries to them, they'll put that on their website, and we'll have a hit, right? And meanwhile, maybe it's not, what they say it is.
Right.
And some of these, milliamp hour ratings and amp ratings don't make sense to me when you look at them together. And of course, batteries are moving forward in technology very slowly, but it's just, I think that on one level you can't trust what people are saying the rating of a particular type of battery is, or what is on the website. On the other hand, you can't trust that you're actually getting the battery that you think you're getting.
Certainly not. Certainly, I totally agree with that. If I see it through the emails that are coming in, I'm sure a lot of you get Chinese spam all the time. All right, and some of the latest emails that I've gotten, I see it clearly where they've understood what the vapors here want, and now they're targeting their emails based on that. New device, 0.2 ohms, 100 watts. Like this is actually a email that generated in China. Okay, how in the world does China know 100 watts, 0.2? I mean, they're basically going based on what they're seeing online and forums and people vaping, and now they're marketing their products like this is a safe product. This will go down to 0.2 and it'll give you 100 watts. And to me, that is a scary thought, especially for vapors that think that they're getting a quality device. It's regulated. I'm safe. I don't have any problems with it. And we've seen this, Michael, in the past. It is a scary thought.
Hey, yeah, you think about all of the products that were on the market that the readout would say it was a specific voltage, but in actuality, because of the pulse width modulation, you were getting a much higher voltage.
Sure.
And everybody was like, oh my God, this is the best mod I've ever used in my life.
It hit so hard.
This 3.5 volts is so much better than that other 3.5 volts.
Right.
Oh my God, they've got better 3.5 volts here. Right? That's ridiculous, right? And, I remember when all that went down, and I was just thinking, something's wrong here. This doesn't make any sense to me, And I even had U.S. vendors telling me, "Oh, this one's much better. It hits much better. There's special technology in it, right?"
Right.
Wait, really? And it's just, if something doesn't seem right, it's best to question it as opposed to just believe.
Well, here's the perfect victim sort of to ask Stephanie. I mean, when you started vaping, Stephanie, and you went to buy a device, whether it was the VTR or whatever you bought as your first, let's say, advanced user device, did you ever look at that ad where you're buying it and read through it and say, this has protection? I mean, it sounds really good to me. I'm just going to buy it. Did you ever question the authenticity of the claims that the ad was making? Did you ever question it yourself?
No, not at all. I made my first purchase of a variable voltage device from Fastech, to be honest.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with Fastech.
No, I'm just saying. That's what I did. I never read the description. I'd watched reviews. I wanted to jump into it and made the purchase without ever reading a thing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that is a scary thought, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of the new vapors, Dane, jump in here. I think a lot of the vapors do exactly what Stephanie does. They're not going to sit there and question. They take this for. I mean, it's like you're going buying a car. Whatever they're going to tell you that the specs of that car is going to be, you kind of put your trust into the salesperson that's selling the car, and you know he says it's 124 horsepower. Okay, it's 120. Why should you doubt it? The same mentality though happens with vapors, especially new vapor shopping.
Yeah, that's a fact. Let's follow Mr. Brady from the Brady Bunch's advice and caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. Also, I think a lot of people do more research on the televisions that they buy and the electronics in their house than what could potentially blow up in their pocket at a meet. And that really needs to stop. Get educated, find out, get the information. Surely there is someone at a vape shop or at a brick and mortar or online. There are forums everywhere that can steer you in the right direction. And that's what really, really needs to happen. I completely agree with James that education really is the key. But to play devil's advocate to James, I ask, is it too late for that now?
I don't think so. I don't think it's too late. I
think it is.
Well, I mean, I think this has gotten a lot of attention. In a way, I think it was almost good. You know, obviously, you know, people at the event right after this happened, I mean, basically, that whole area kind of turned into a ghost town for a little while. There were a lot of people that were very shaken, and some of them left the event, some of them moved off. But that area around the stage, which was very crowded before, kind of cleared out.
72 hours it will be forgotten, James. That's how this community is. I'm sorry.
Has anyone lawyered up yet?
I don't think so. I don't think anybody got hurt to the point where it's going to require something like that. Fortunately enough, but I'm not saying it might not happen in the future. And why am I coming back that it's too late for it? You know. When I was in Little Rock, I don't have to call out the people, but when I was in Little Rock, a lot of vendors came because I wanted to talk about an association that they're going to form there in Arkansas. And a lot of them spoke one-on-one with me, and I gave them my advice. I spoke to a vendor there, 6-month vapor, just opened up a shop a month and a half ago. And instead of asking me questions, I thought she's going to ask me questions about, you know, what the FDA is going to do and all that. They were asking me for what can I do to bring more business into my shop. But anyway, this vendor, folks, and everybody that's listening, did not know that the FDA is going to regulate e-cigs as tobacco, okay? And the conversation with her started, and she was smiling, and she was such a good mood. By the time I finished the conversation, she was almost ready to cry. Is that like the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, James? I mean, here's a vendor. They're opening up a store. She borrowed money from her family to open it, puts all her life savings, quits her job, and has no idea. This has been on the table, by the way, since 2009, that the FDA is going to regulate this product as tobacco.
Wow.
She has no idea that this product will be regulated as tobacco cigarettes. I almost wanted to say, what the hell are you doing, honey? Sell everything that you have and go back into your old job. But, you know, part of my speech, James, and I just want to put the part of the speech that I had there, and what I would talk about lately is the American dream and how the e-cig industry has brought back that American dream, right? I mean, moms and pop shops springing up across America, renting these spaces, employing people, that's a beautiful thing. But that American dream is based on the ability that these people have to create a business, right? And we're lacking, and it's point proven day after day, this industry is lacking the ability and the professionalism to shine as the American dream. A lot of these people were never business owners. All these people just saw a buck in it. They're jumping on it. They're selling any kind of crap to the new vapors. And unfortunately, it is too late in the game until the government forces it on us, Michael, and regulates this product.
You know what, Dimitri? I got 2 points. Point number 1, and I'm not going off subject, but I was in an industry with my own company, not this industry, making iPhone apps, and did very well. And every little small, you know, 2 brothers making apps, you know, at that time, were doing well on the store, could make a decent amount of money on the App Store. And then all of a sudden, there is a shift in the market, and now it's big companies, right, that make a lot of money on the App Store. And every now and again, you hear about the small guy who's doing well. And why don't I have, there was a point where I was popular, you know,
Yeah, that was last year.
you know, I may not be, people don't want to hug me people don't even recognize me when I go to vape meets anymore, but, like there was a point when I first started vaping, and then, even when I was popular doing videos, that I was like, maybe I could get into this business, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't. And the reason why I didn't is because I had experienced a new business, right? A new segment appearing and being profitable in the beginning and going kaput very quickly after a couple years after something changed that was out of my control. I think that what you're going to see is that a lot of these people who just jumped on the bandwagon, opened stores, and they're making a ton of money, they're going to be out of business. They're going to be a couple years not having a job in whatever industry they were in. They're going to have a hard time finding a job. And this is just my thoughts. I could be wrong, and my God, I hope I'm wrong. Okay, because I want these shops to stay around. I like the idea of going to a vape shop. So that's my one point, is that it worries me how quickly people jump in and how uneducated they are about e-cigarettes in general and what's going on as far as regulation and things like that. The other thing is, I've been to a couple vape shops over the past couple months, and I've listened to salespeople who, I don't want to classify the people, but maybe they're not the type of people who, I guess would be in a $120,000 career and leave it to go work in a vape shop, right?
Sure.
And, I've listened to some of the sales pitch, and it's worried me.
Yeah.
Because it's incorrect information or hearsay, right? Even the whole entire, and so when you're talking about education, right? And if you're a business owner, a small business owner, and you hire 5 people or 7 people, I think it's your job not to get them to do a sales pitch, but to get them to educate. Right?
It happens on every industry, though, Michael. I mean, once you go work for somebody, you're going to be trained, you're going to be educated, especially when you're in the retail sector, to be able to sell their product. And that doesn't happen in this industry, right? They bring stuff, I'm a vapor. I've been vaping for 2 years. Here you go, $9 an hour. Go out there and vape and sell stuff. It happens. We see it every day. Let me not even get into the labeling and some of these juices and some of these names, whatever. That takes it to a whole different level. But most importantly, safety. Here's a comment from a vendor, James, that I want you to address, and they're adamant about this. Let's get back to the safety real quick so we can end this. Battery output and capacity are relative. You can't increase the capacity on a battery without sacrificing output. Sony VTC4s and VTC5s are a perfect example. Your comments, James?
Yeah, I agree with that. To get that C rating, to get that rating for the amperage, they do have to lower capacity. I've seen some outrageous claims from new battery manufacturers. Actually, they're not new manufacturers. All our batteries are made in China. At least the majority of the ones that I'm aware of are made in China. They're just all relabeled and branded, etc. But you do have to reduce the capacity in order to get that amp rating to qualify for it being a high drain cell. And Michael, you could probably speak to that as well.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier, where you look at some of the amp ratings and you look at the milliamp hours that these batteries are rated at, and it doesn't make mathematical sense.
Right.
Especially the BT5s. I don't know what's going on with those.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that milliamp hour rating on those.
I don't know. I don't have the equipment to test that, right? I'm sure that there are people out there who do and who have posted information on that, but it's been since the day I started since the day I picked up a mod, right? A mechanical mod, where one of the first things that I was told was, don't believe the capacity, right? That it's a lie.
Yeah.
And you got to think that that's scary, right? So if the capacity is a lie, could Could the amp rating be a lie? And, you know, when did we move from the C rating to just, you know, the amp rating, right? Because the industry uses the C rating, and because we talk in amps, right, our community talks in amps, all of a sudden there was a change where batteries would be listed as having a C rating that nobody quite understood what the hell it was. And then they understand what amps are, sort of. They know what the word is. So then all of a sudden, all these websites list, you know, the amp rating for pulse and the amp rating for continuous. So yeah, I think that that's like an interesting change. And I think that all of these numbers, I think
here's a perfect example, and I wanted to bring this about this. Is this the reason ProVari is limiting their P3 to 20 watts and 5 amps liability protection? I think that's part of it. I really truly, I mean, I have sat down with these guys from ProVape, and I have to hand it to them. I mean, they're nerds. Don't get me wrong. They're like, you know, focused into it. But everybody that's there is, you know, the engineers that work there, they're focused on safety. And they said, we don't care. And I know they're going to get a lot of flack about this 20-watt ProVari. Why limit it to 20 watts? I know for a fact that they're not going to put a device out there that could potentially cause somebody to get hurt, okay? Their target audience is 95% of this industry, whether you guys like it or not. They're not targeting you 5% that want to get 50 watts or you think you're getting 50 watts to your atomizer. They're targeting the 95% they're going to move up from an ego and want a dependable device to put on their clearomizers and run them at 12, 13 watts, whatever they like it to, and hit that button and know every time they hit that button they're going to get the safest vape possible. So I have to commend ProVape for doing that. Does 20 watt not satisfy you? There's plenty of devices out there that do way above that. But I guarantee you, you're the minority, the way minority, I would say, Dane, in this community that vapes.
That is absolutely correct. And to take it a step further, that intermediate market that you spoke of will benefit the most from this device because it gives them a little bit of room to grow before they decide if they need or want to go on to sub-ohming. I applaud ProVape for doing it. I really do. Since we seem to have no Ralph Nader, which is a consumer advocate of vaping, I applaud the vendor, especially the manufacturer, that can do it for themselves. And I think it's a great idea, and I applaud them for that device.
I think so too. I think we have beaten this subject to death, and I know some of the viewers are getting pretty bored with it too. And that goes back to what I said in 72 hours it will be forgotten. I mean, for crying out loud, 3 years ago, people were selling mismarked nicotine to people that were vaping it, and the community forgot about it in 72 hours. They're definitely going to forget about a battery banning at an event. There's no doubt in my mind. But moving ahead, let's go ahead and let's get everybody's thoughts briefly, please, on where do we go from here? What would be some good steps to take from here? I'm going to start with you, Michael.
I don't know.
That's a good answer.
I don't know where we go from here, and I feel like I look at a community that I loved, and that took up a lot of my time, and I don't recognize it. And it was about helping people quit smoking, not quit smoking, I don't want to say quit smoking, but change to vaping. And now I don't feel like it is. And I honestly am sad when I think about it. Because I feel like I lost something that was a big part of my life, the community. Not vaping, but the community. Because I just don't recognize it anymore.
I have to agree with that a little bit. And today on my YouTube channel was an interesting comment that I want to pull up. And somebody asked, did we lose this tobacco harm reduction concept? That's what we all started. We started to get off cigarettes, right? And now it's turned into something completely different. Somebody posted a comment on my channel today about, why don't we market this as somebody that's going to enjoy flavors or somebody that's just going to pick it up and vape? And I told him, I said, maybe that hurts my stance with you as a reviewer, but I started this channel as a tobacco harm reduction tool to help people that are journeying into vaping, just like I did, to be able to discover the joys of vaping and how it can help them successfully quit tobacco cigarettes. That's why I do it, and that's why I started. That's why I continue to do it. I mean, there's many times in this community where I want to say, screw it. I've had enough. People, for trolling and this and making stupid comments. But I always tough it out because I do believe that if I can help somebody, get off combustible tobacco, I've done my job. And somewhere we took a turn as the industry has exploded now, literally after Texas. We took a kind of a turn, and now it's turned into something else. James.
Yeah, I agree with those thoughts. I like Michael, I can't really speak to what we can do in lieu of this, short of educate. And again, you said, the attention span of a vapor. I don't know how much is going to be heard. But the other point that you made, I think we've kind of lost sight of why we're originally doing this. And I was talking about this with Dane the other day. My local meets are a great cross-section. The local meets here in Northwest Indiana, Steel City Vapors, are a great cross-section of the community. You have new vapors that are using Cigalikes and Egos. You have intermediate vapors that are using other devices. You have the people who are using ProVaris and Vamos, etc., with clearomizers. They are perfectly happy. They're off cigarettes. They've moved on, and they're on the road to tobacco harm reduction. And then you have other people that are focusing on, blowing clouds, basically. And there's other meets in other parts. I'm close to Chicagoland, so there's several different organizations out of Chicago. And, I've observed some of those groups during these meets, and you would be hard-pressed to find anybody who isn't using a mechanical and a rebuildable dripper, or a 100-watt box and a rebuildable dripper. So what happens if you get somebody off the street that comes in and they're smoking cigarettes and they walk in here and they're like, okay, what do I do? I like to think that there's somebody there that can help them, and certainly I believe there is, but they might get turned off before they even get to talk to somebody because they see everybody wearing black shirts blowing clouds straight into the air, and they see everybody in these little cliques, and they're intimidated by that. And I think that's a shame.
I want to put this out there before I get to you, Stephanie and Dane, and let me just screen share. This just came across my feed right now. Here's a picture. Can you guys see that? I don't know if this is true or not.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. I don't know if this is true or not. Let me try to make it a little bit bigger. Got 25 stitches last night and still building like a champ. Haha. 0.092 ohms. There's a guy that has stitches on his ear, and then his build right next to it. And I don't know if this is true or not. It just came across my feed. But if this is happening, if this is truly happening, I don't want to be a part of it. Here's another one that I want to post here. I just want to, if you guys can see it on my Facebook feed. This was posted by a vendor. Okay, I'm gonna, mark out his name because I don't want to, Anyway. This was posted in a sales Facebook page, and it says, bottom feeder, beast boxes, $100, no addy, no battery, capable of sub-ohm at your own risk without the need for upgrades. What is that saying there, James? So you take this, you can sub-ohm at your own risk, and some dumbass is just going to take it and go build a 0.092 ohm and put it on this damn thing. And then boom, I guess. I don't know. It's disheartening, Stephanie.
Who buys something that looks like that on the inside?
Yeah, I know, right? I know, it's pretty bad.
Well, you guys are speaking my language right now because, James, what you just said is how I feel every time I've gone to a meet. It's very intimidating to me. I try to keep, and Dane has heard me talk about this many times, I try to keep perspective because every time I do a beginner's type of video, oh my gosh, the comments that I get about it. I just feel like my job has always been, and hopefully will always be, to just help people make the switch. I'm fine with them moving on to other reviewers after that. My job is to go in and have a smoke, get them on an Ego or an MVP2 or whatever it happens to be. That's my job. That's the way I see it, and that's where I'm just going to keep there. But I totally agree. As a culture, I wish I knew. I really do.
Dane.
This industry has grown. I know I've said it before, especially James and I have talked about it. I'm not fond of throwing the word community around anymore. Vape meets, local vape meets, that's a community. This is an industry. And as an industry, we've grown unevenly. I can tell you what I'd like to see personally. We put a lot of money and invest a lot of man hours and time into advocating for our right to vape. If we don't do it safely, we're not going to have it anyway. Why isn't there a VSA, a Vaping Safety Association? Why aren't there local chapters that oversee some of these bigger vaping organizations across the country that not only teach and preach advocacy, but teach safe vaping to anyone who needs and or wants to have it? I think as an industry, look, we can all say that I'm not my brother's keeper, and to a certain extent that's true. But if you truly are a community, reaching out in this type of fashion is not only something that's important, but it's necessary, because legislation and safety go hand in hand. And if one teeters in the other direction, it still winds up in the same place, and that's eliminated.
I believe as a reviewer that I've made it a point to stay away from doing stuff like that on my channel, and I think overall it's going to hurt your subscription base. I mean, you can see it. People like Rip, people like that put these extreme builds out there. People are fascinated by it. They're envy of it. They chase it, and obviously you see those numbers grow. And I can tell, you know, in the fact that I don't do juice reviews, but I try to limit my channel to be safe. But it seems that, to me, Michael, and you know, you're a YouTube reviewer as well. To me, it seems that people are not interested in that anymore.
Look, man, I have what I bought recently, the Views, the Mark 10. You know, I have some comments on the new version of the Enjoy King, right? Who cares? Nobody cares. Why am I going to spend an entire night? Because let's be honest, to make a video, you know, it takes you a night, multiple takes and multiple cutting it up. You know, why even bother doing it on something like that? Because that is not where the eyes are, right? Nobody cares about the views or anything like that. You know, I don't know. And maybe even if I do a build on camera, I'm not cool anymore if I do a 0.8 ohm build. Right. You know, like somebody called me old school I was at a vape lounge. They said I was old school.
Yeah, well, you are kind of old school too, but I mean, I'm the same way too. Somebody posted a comment on one of my rebuild videos that, oh, I use 22 gauge on that and it gives me clouds or whatever. That's fine. If that's what's happy for you, that's fine. Again, my biggest concern is that new vapor that's going to go on YouTube and search, and the first thing that they're going to see is somebody building a 0.2 ohm coil, and they're going to try to replicate that. It's going to cause issues. Not to mention that, you know, it's just getting at this point out of hand.
All right, I want to address something really quick, Dimitri, okay? Because I've been watching chat, and I just need to say something here. Somebody's throwing out a 100 amp pulse rating on a battery, okay? Look, if you've got it in a mech and your button lock fails for some reason, or if you have a flush button and you got change in your pocket or something, for whatever reason, if that battery continues to fire, you're faced with a failure. There's no reason to vape at the pulse rating of these batteries. There's no reason. I hope, you know, I'm sure this argument is not going to end, but
yeah, I think it's just two guys going back and forth between Cloud Chasers and somebody else that whatever they posted. I mean, I don't trust Cloud Chasers. I don't trust anybody to tell me. I just trust whatever I believe is safe for me to vape. I'm not going to sit there and take somebody's opinion on a battery when they were working at McDonald's for $7.25 and now they're selling wire that people think is magic, comes from unicorns, whatever. I don't believe that, okay? And to me, I believe whatever I know about vaping, and I try to relay that through the information to the people that ask me, the people that care, Mike.
You know what, Dimitri? To that guy's comment, my question to him is, what the hell do you know about batteries?
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
That's my question to him. What do you know about batteries besides what you read where you bought it, right? You don't know shit.
Right.
Okay?
You don't.
So you could just regurgitate something that you read, but I don't know. Like, if I was doing a paper on batteries, I'm not going to go to some vendor's website and get my information and cite that website, and it's not going to happen. So that whole thing, that's
no, I would never do that. And I hope there's not reviewers, James, and I hope there's not people out there that are saying, well, I read this, it's safe. Go ahead and just stick it in your mod and vape it.
There are.
yes. I know we had a little freeze moment. But anyway, enough. I hope these meets continue. I hope it doesn't cause any problems in the future. I'm not very confident. I can't lie to you, but I hope that as we progress as an industry, I hope that we're not going to be on CNN talking about somebody that lost their lives using a battery, because to me that would be the end of vaping as we know it. I think that would seriously put the vaping industry in the biggest hurdle that they're going to face, and they could potentially face an overnight ban. Dane, I mean, this could literally happen.
Yeah, it could. The advice I see, and I don't comment on YouTube videos much, and I did the other day, and I had mentioned to the gentleman, look, what you decide to do in the privacy of your own home is indeed your business. Do that if you will. But if you're at a public meet and I'm standing next to you when that same venting happens and your mod is about to become an explosive device, it then becomes my problem.
Sure.
And then that's a different issue altogether. If for nothing else, save the sub-ohming for the basement or for the backyard. Go look at the new gear at a vape shop, convene with other people, get new ideas, and for goodness sakes, get some education about exactly what you're doing to those cells and those devices.
Certainly. James, let's just change the topic. Let's have some fun, because I'm tired of this.
Sounds good.
Huh?
What did you say, Michael?
Let's talk about the P3. Has anybody used the P3 yet?
Yes, I've used the P3, and I think I've always liked the ProVari. I think it's a device that a lot of people have grown to know as a dependable device, a workhorse. I have two ProVaris. I've been working into 4 years now. I never have any problems, but I think it vapes really good. I really like what they did with a top cap, that it's, you can remove it, put a 510 on it, you can put ego threading on it, which is something I've been asking for a long time for all these people that are using the clearomizers. They have a tank that's coming out that's going to be hybrid threaded on it. I think all are good ideas. The only thing that I can see, of course, from the community coming is the limitation of 20 watts. Other than that, I think the battery IQ that they have on there is a brilliant design. It's going to separate the bad batteries from the good batteries, which is a good thing for new vapors that are out there. You're going to be able to put a battery inside. It's going to give you the IQ of the battery, and based on that number, it's going to tell you what that battery is going to give you and what it will not give you. And you're going to see a lot of batteries from the market, that we thought maybe were good batteries come out to be pretty crappy batteries, Michael.
How about the elimination of the error codes? I thought that was outstanding. Finally, you don't have to decipher an error code. It'll actually tell you on an on-screen prompt what it is.
Yeah, the menu system is, again, it's a little bit complex, with the little scrolling going through. I mean, again, once you set a variable voltage device, in my opinion, I've said this in videos for the past 3 years, once you know what your sweet spot is, if you're, a normal vapor, I mean, is that a thing now? I mean, like, are you a normal vapor or are you an abnormal vapor? But once you know where your happy spot is, you pretty much set it and forget it, and you start vaping, Michael.
My question to you is, because I think that this is a feature that was kind of brushed over and nobody's talked about. Like, everybody was like, oh, it's only 20 watts, right? My question to you is, it has that sort of at the beginning of the vape, it's got a feature where it sort of, I guess, heats up the coil quicker.
Accelerates, yeah.
Yeah. So, I spoke earlier about how I think that that's what we really are chasing when we lower the resistance. I am really interested in the P3 for that feature. I don't care that it's limited to 20 watts. I think that that feature is going to make it vape really well. So I don't know. I haven't used it. How does that feature work for you?
Yeah. It works well. Again, though, based on my builds, I don't really need that. That's I mean, that's the thing. Right now I have a 1 ohm coil here on my K-Fon. I'm vaping at 15 watts. I'm completely happy. I'm completely content. I can understand what that feature is, and the Evic Supreme has it as well too. I'll be honest, I never use it.
Really?
I mean, it's not something that, I'm not one of these that wants that instant, I mean, I can wait that split second to get to my temperature of the coil. Personally, I know that some other people might find it interesting, but to me, I think battery safety, device safety is number one, especially with some of these the devices that are geared towards that percentage of the community that it's just solely looking for a solid device, something to vape, something to be safe. I do have to say that the P3, and I saw that in the chat too, the logo looks like it says PB. So I don't know how much money Phil Busardo got for that, but it looks like it's. I was like, what the hell? Y'all put Phil Busardo's initials on this thing? He's like, no, it's P3. I saw the guy actually in Texas over the weekend, their marketing director. But yeah.
I'm gonna try and win a cloud competition with one when it comes out.
Okay, that'd be interesting.
That's what I'm gonna try and do.
Make sure you record it. And here's another idea that I had to change the subject a little bit, make it a little bit more fun. How about we have cloud competitions, not only with your sub-ohmers, but let's have some cloud competitions with non-sub-ohmers. We can have an aero tank competition. Let's have a 510 dripping Addy, a HH357 competition. I tell you what, when I dripped, and I dripped religiously into 510 atomizers, I bypassed the whole atomizer and Cardo thing. I just went straight to dripping. I had one of my HH357s that started at 1.5 ohm, and I had it so long, I cleaned it so much that it kept dropping in resistance. And then when it hit around 1 ohm, it was like the best vape I ever had. Plenty of vapor for me, great flavor coming out of that barrel. So let's give it a little bit of variety. I know Stephanie would be in a ladies Aspar BDC competition. How do you think about that, Stephanie?
I like that idea. I have incredible lung capacity. So.
We're gonna have to measure that, please. We have to make sure that your lungs are on the same playing field.
That's right.
I wonder if breasts affect the way that you inhale. Like, if you have bigger, do you get longer?
Dimitri, you bring that up, all of a sudden the entire vaping community is going to start saying that. And then all of a sudden, all of the men are going to go get, forget estrogen, right? And there's going to be all these men with titties running around, and they're going to be like, my lungs are so much better because of my new titties.
I don't know. I think we're going to have to bleep Michael like 3 times during this episode.
Hey, I've got some moves going too, but I can't lung inhale like these guys. I don't know. I don't think it affects it, but maybe for women it does. I don't know.
I'll tell you what, if cup size matters, Busardo and I win hands down.
That'd be great. Let's do a cup and cloud competition at the same time. I would pay money to see that cloud competition for sure.
You're gonna have to get some real technical equipment in order to measure that.
Oh man, listen, it's fun. It's all good in games until somebody gets hurt, and that's what happened in Texas, and people will forget about it until the next thing happens and the next breaking news happen. For me, the way that I see it, I still want to keep going to these events. We got ECC coming up. It's going to be a huge event. Let's talk about ECC a little bit. The guys have done a great job promoting it. I saw CJ put out his video yesterday promoting the event. They had a nice interview with a lot of the guys that are organizing the event. Next Wednesday on Smoke Free Radio, I'm going to have a couple of them on to talk about it. ECC, James, 240 vendors.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's going to be a huge
That's insane.
event. They've taken over the entire Ontario Expo Center over there. One of the things that I'm a little bit disturbed about, I don't know, I kind of lost the trackers. Did I lose the trackers? What happened? One of the things that I was concerned about is I heard a lot of these vendors, Michael, they're spending a lot of money on these booths. I mean, I heard that some of the vendors are spending like up to $150,000 on their elaborate booth setups. And nothing against that. I mean, you have the money to spend it, great. But why not take 50 of that and put it into an organization like SFATA, or put it into an organization as we're progressing with these FDA regulations to help the cause?
I guess, isn't it difficult to... one of the things I always thought about with these organizations is, people give money to them, and, how do you measure the results from these, these organizations? There's so many of them now, and they all do different things, right? And if I give $200, and everybody who vapes gives $200 to this company or this organization or that organization, Like, do we see some sort of what is the tangible results? You know, I don't think that people think about giving when they own a business, think about giving money to these organizations as much as they think about building their brand with
Sure. I understand that. I think a lot of people have that mentality that it's not going anywhere and they're safe, and that's not true. I mean, if you look at the FDA proposed regulations as they're written right now, there is one section inside that every vendor should read, and I guarantee you half the vendors probably have not read, and that's the pre-market application. So every product, and I said this in Little Rock, where I told the people that everything that you're holding right now in your hands, everything that the store sells, will not qualify under this ruling by the FDA, and everybody was shocked. Everybody was kind of looking at me like, what did he just say? And I had to repeat myself. That pre-market application rule for devices that have come on the market after 2007 wipes out this industry completely. And if you're a vendor and you don't know that, if you're a vapor, you don't know that, well, you're in for a rude awakening. And I guess I had a really interesting interview with Julie and Alex, and James was there. They'll tell you the same thing, that, you know, I mean, CASA, you know, they don't represent the vendors, okay? Let's just clear that up. And even Julie said at the same time. But it has to be a collaboration by various organizations that are out there to come together to be able to fight this. And unfortunately, as an industry, we have failed to do that. We have failed to organize and show the professional side of this industry, or just kind of leave the rest of the crap. I know there's going to be vendors out there that don't care. There's going to be vendors out there that don't want to do anything. That's fine. Just kind of leave them behind. And the ones that do care, organize, try to get yourselves into a state association, then eventually get to the federal level to be able to fight as we move along. Dane.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, this advocacy situation has been very delicate for me as well. As you know, in Tempe now, we went before the city council. We lost there. It's difficult for me to try to remind vapors that the FDA's own comments by Mitch Zeller were said that the FDA will not make recommendations to Congress to undo any current legislation that gets passed at the state and local level. These local ones are just as important as the big ones, because if they spread like wildfire across the country, it's still going to be mandated at the local level as a tobacco product and treated as such. And it's a difficult spot to be in. You know, going back to the big vendors banding together and giving money and things like that and spending it on big meats, you know, I'm certainly in favor of that. I'm not going to tell someone how to spend their money. You know, some people, you know, donate to different things and in different ways, and that's certainly their prerogative. Yeah. But they could be helping their industry altogether. But
I just can't see, James. I just can't see without money how we win this. Science is not working on so far. I mean, we've got plenty of science out there.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely need money. Whether it's for studies or advocacy, the money is necessary. And my concern, you know, I hate to say this because, you know, I know you have your own organization there in Tennessee as well, but my fear is that it's getting too fragmented. It's like who knows where these dollars are going to? Sure. I mean, there's different vendors that are donating to, you know, CASA and SVADA and Vista and these different groups, and I know they don't all hold the same role, but it's almost like you need a guide or a 101 for somebody who's looking to donate to benefit the community and may want their dollars to go to a specific cause, per se.
You know, I think that's something that we've talked about here on Vape Team Media of doing is going to all these organizations and doing a one-on-one interview and kind of laying it out there on the line. What exactly do you do? Who should be donating? If they donate, where does the money go? How it's being spent? How do you plan to proceed in the future? It's been logistically a little bit difficult, but I think that we do have it, Dane, in our plans to do that, and maybe do a playlist on YouTube of all these organizations.
That is absolutely correct. And I will be starting with the first one next week. I'm going to be interviewing the director of the National Association of Vaping Businesses, a man named Matt Morales, who is a lobbyist here in the state of Arizona, and talk about exactly that. what is it that you do? What is the outreach to the vendors? Because he is paid by a group of vendors here in this state. They banded together and got their own lobbyists some time ago to do that. And I had brought up the same point as James. Isn't this a little fragmented? You know, there are other organizations out there, but it boiled down to those vendors a personal preference, and they decided to take the initiative and do it themselves. But look for that interview, because it'll certainly be up, and it's certainly a compelling one, because it's an interesting situation, and it's an interesting perspective of a lobbying industry that's essentially on the fringe, or maybe just a little bit of the outside of the norms that everybody's familiar with.
Here's a question from the chat. I wanted to ask Demi what studies Dr. F is doing or is planning on doing soon. Well, I just found out last night that the diacetyl study has been accepted and has been peer-reviewed, and it will be published in Nicotine and Addiction, I think, is the medical journal. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dane, on that.
No,
So
you're correct. Yeah,
I think once this study comes out, of course, it's going to get a lot of publicity, because it is a semi-bad study, if you want to call it that. And we have to keep that in mind. We have to be a little bit objective when we're talking about science on e-cigs. Not every study that's going to come out is going to be good. I mean, I just don't. This is a new product. This is a new industry. We don't have any long-term studies. I think there's going to be some bad stuff that's going to come out, and hopefully the industry will self-regulate as it comes out. The next planned study, we're launching the fundraiser, I think in 10 days. By the way, I want to give a huge thank you to Joytech USA for donating EVIC Supremes for this study, and Zwomesto donated 10K funds for this study. A couple of stores in Greece, Atmos store, and another store, it kind of escapes my mind right now, have donated some drippers. What we're doing is, number one, we're going to duplicate the formaldehyde study. Now, this is a study that was made by UCF. It was a bad study that showed that it was formaldehyde in the vapor. But what they were doing is they were using a top coil clearomizer, and they were hitting it at 4.8 volts. And anybody that vapes will tell you if you take a Vivi Nova and you hit it at 4.8 volts, it's going to be burnt. So they were taking that burnt, actually, combination of vapor and the burnt coil, and they were measuring, and they were finding a formaldehyde. Even that formaldehyde that they found was not alarming levels. It was below the threshold that's acceptable, by the way. Just going to put that out there. So he's going to duplicate that study and kind of, put it out there to say that this study was exactly the same, duplicated, and this is the results that we found in a real-time use situation. And the other thing that we're going to do, and it's something that a lot of the community has been interested about, especially Phil Busardo has been asking about this for a long time, is to measure temperatures of coils and wicks and what happens to the vapor in these extreme sub-ohm conditions, which I know, James, you're very close to that. You really want to find out what exactly happens to VG, PG, and the flavorings when we put them under these extreme conditions.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know it breaks down, especially at the temperatures that sub-ohm builds are generating. One of the concerns I have with any of these research studies, though, are just what conditions are they being held in. And I know there was some talk of possibly using K-funds or things like that when they're doing testing. And you got to make sure you're not blocking the airflow. You have to make sure that you're accurately representing the saturation level of these coils in order to get an accurate reading. So, I mean, that has to be something that's published as well, and I'm sure it will be, but that's a very valid concern.
Certainly, and it has to be done by vapors. I mean, it has to be done for people that actually use this product,
Right.
and not a couple of paid pharmaceutical shields in a lab that have never used a vapor product before, and they're doing all this testing, and they're putting this misinformation out to the public. And keep in mind that testing costs money, okay? You can't do clinical studies, and you can't do chemical analysis unless you have money, and the industry has to fund this. Nowhere else will we be able to get the money to be able to do this. We depend on the industry to raise the money to do it. Which brings me to another point. Last night, somebody on my Facebook was trolling me about We Are Vapors, and they're saying, "Well, what happened to We Are Vapors?" And you took the money. There was a whole group of people that were involved with We Are Vapors. A lot of people, including Kasa, got called out on my wall last night for not delivering this film. And it's an unfair. I mean, it's almost like people are accusing, or this particular guy was accusing me of taking the money and not delivering a movie. Listen, We help on every product that comes across our desk. If somebody comes to us and asks for help, just like Link did with the We Are Vapors project, we thought it was a good idea at the time, and that's what we did. If the film was never made, you need to actually direct your questions to the people that did collect your money and the person that's supposed to edit that film. That is who ultimately is responsible for this video. Am I disappointed? Absolutely. As I was disappointed in the J-Box fiasco, as I was disappointed in the Box Elder, as I was disappointed in who was that guy that took the money and ran with that mod a couple years ago, James? The Jolly situation.
Yeah.
All the stuff like that has happened in this community over and over again. It's not going to stop happening, but that's not going to stop me or deter me from doing what I believe is right for this community and advocate for this product. Michael, I see you're kind of eager to jump in there.
Yeah, well, I'm out over $1,000 on mods that weren't delivered to me that I paid for in advance. Well over $1,000. It might even be up to $2,000 with some mods that were supposed to be 2 mods that were supposed to come from Korea that never came. But I think that what the community needs to understand is that this is just like Kickstarter. Right? If you fund a game on Kickstarter for iOS or for whatever, some console, and the game doesn't happen, the people who posted that get to keep that money. Maybe they spent it trying to make the game, but you have no recourse in order to get your money back, and you took a gamble, and that's why you don't see this stuff anymore. You don't see, unknown modders, people who have never made a mod before, saying, here's my prototype, and it's going to cost $250, and everybody give me the money so that I can buy machinery to make it, and 6 or 8 months from now you might get it. I mean, I haven't seen that. Even the Shockwave that took a year to come out from a well-known manufacturer. Sure. That was ridiculous. And at least he gave updates, and you kind of felt like you were gonna get it. Right. But because that would be the end of his business, because he had a pre-existing business prior. But I think what you do with your money, you got to be real careful. And even with these organizations, if you're gonna give money to an organization, I want somebody connected to that organization that I trust, and if they lose my trust by not following through or not doing what they said they were going to do, then that's it. I'm never going to trust you again. Right. I think there's so many times that people can get burnt before they decide that their money is their money and you can't have it.
I totally agree. Dane, the truth is that, especially in situations like We Are Vapors, I really don't know what somebody, and I know there's some people out there, they're just trolling and just, but I really don't know how, at what point, what can I do? I mean, can I edit video? Can I put this film out? Is there any legal recourse? If you believe that there's legal recourse, knock yourself out. Go after it. I really don't know what else I can do. Just like me, there was a lot of people that were behind this project, and unfortunately, it never came to fruition. And that's just part of it, Dane.
Yeah, it is. And it's an unfortunate situation that it didn't get done, and there were a lot of extraneous circumstances that led into that. Some were made public, some weren't. We as a community have always been quick on the draw. We're always ready, fire, aim, and that if something isn't delivered at this very minute exactly the way it said it was, then somebody is always trolled or beaten in the court of public opinion on the internet. To me, that's a little cowardly. If you really want to know what happened to the video, look to the person responsible to it, message that person, talk to that person, and find out why. I know there was some talk in chat also about the Dr. F study. There's a lot of things that go into a medical study, and there are a lot of reasons why they don't get put out as soon as they thought. Peer review is not a fast process, and neither is putting out a movie. It takes a lot of time, and I'm not making excuses for the producers of that film by any stretch, but I understand.
You can't make excuses at this point. And I'm going to tell you that the stuff like We Are Vapors and other stuff that has happened in the community does deter. I do agree with some vendors that tell me that stuff that has happened with a movie like Link and other stuff in the community in the past deter them from giving money to new projects. I totally agree with this. But again, when it comes to studies, vapors get on the internet 48 hours after they place an order online and bitch and complain because their juice hasn't come in. So we can't take this attitude when we're talking about a chemical study that's going to be peer reviewed, okay? I mean, unless you want to have the same studies that the government's putting out there to blast this industry, right? We have to make sure that, number one, that the study is accurate, it's double-checked, we make sure that the people peer review it and it's published accurately to represent exactly what happened. I mean, this is a study done by, it wasn't just Dr. F, there was Dr. Kurt Kistler was involved, there was a whole panel of medical professionals that did the study, and they're going to do the future studies as well, not just one doctor doing it, right? Look at the study, and you're going to see all the people that were involved. Dr. F might be spearheading it, but he's not the only person that's doing it. So there's a lot of science involved into doing a study analysis that's going to be peer-reviewed. It won't happen overnight.
You know what, Dimitri? Was the guy who was going to make We Are Vapors, was he a filmmaker?
Yes. Link was. I mean, he directed films before. Now he works for the industry, but back then he was, and we all kind of believed it. We all we all kind of fell in that. I mean, just like anything that came across. I mean, this has happened to us in the past as well too. Anything that's going to come across, it happened with a Vape project. Remember that, James? That douchebag that took all that money, the kits. I sent him 45 kits. I sent him 45 kits that were sponsored by the House of Vapor and by Halo to give to the troops. And what did he do? Bent me over the table and bone dried me. But again, will that deter me from helping again a project that comes across my desk and says, "Hey, Dimitri, you do have a little bit of a publicity reach. Can you help us do that?" No. But I can't make excuses for anybody. I really can't. Link did not deliver on that project. Am I disappointed? Yes, I am extremely disappointed. If you look on the list of donators, my name is on there. I have put money on there, just like Michael, and I'm sure a lot of people in the vaping community.
Not me. No, I never believed that was happening.
Okay, well, I mean, I guess you were smart. You should have told me too.
A movie about vapors? How boring would that be?
I know, that's true. But at this point, I mean, I really don't know what else that I personally could do, or anybody else that was involved with that project, since we didn't see a dime from that money. We helped raise it, and from there on, what happened? It's clearly up to the person that took the money and didn't deliver on the film, and that's who people should be addressing.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I agree too. The big misconception is that a lot of people, especially newer people, see us here and think that we're laughing all the way to the bank.
Right.
I can assure you that is absolutely not the case.
I put $500 out of my pocket last week to buy you some beautiful microphones, Mr.
That is absolutely correct. And James will tell you what happened when I shipped those said microphones. Via FedEx.
That was rough. We ended up having to borrow Phil's rig for part of the shoot because FedEx did not deliver their package as promised, despite exorbitant shipping rates.
Yes,
I'll even be precise on that. That was $304.
That was horrible. I hope the vendor that's listening now, my buddy, can sponsor my $500 microphones that I shipped today. I'll put your name on top of the microphone. I don't care. And stop whining. But seriously, I mean, what we do here and whatever we've done, whether it was We Are Vapors, it's always been a volunteer effort that's trying to raise awareness, trying to do something good for the community. If other people screw it up, I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to happen again. James, you see it. I see it now. I used to get on those lists, James. I used to. Yeah. I used to be one of those guys that couldn't wait for that list, and I would actually fund money to somebody to get a lathe. What the hell was I thinking? Like, this guy comes up with an idea and doesn't have money, and he raises money from the vapors themselves to buy a machine to make the mod that you're going to buy. I mean, Michael, stop me. I'm getting irate again.
No, I still keep up with the thread on that guy Eric on ECF. People still talk on the thread. People were like, on this date, everybody send him a postcard so that he gets a pile of postcards. Like all this stuff. You know, he bought a machine and he BS'd. He has pictures of parts. It's the same pictures of parts for the past year and a half. I don't even want the mod anymore, right? I don't even care. But I'm done. I'm done with that. I'm done with giving my money to people who don't have a product that they can ship to me right away. I'm done with it. It's not a smart way to do business. And if people want to take a risk to do that, I've even been on those lists and gotten the mod and been like, you suck.
Yes.
Like, your pictures look a lot nicer than this, and this is a piece of junk, and now it's in a pile.
Yes.
So I mean, everybody wants to be a modder, right? Everybody, I could do this. I could do a tube. Well, actually, this is just very masterfully done.
It is.
But
I envy. I love that device.
I don't know. This is a tube. Who can't do this?
Yeah.
Right? Who can't? There's a machine shop down the street.
Sure.
I can hire them to do it if somebody will give me the money. If anybody wants to give me money,
start a thread right now. Start a list. Start a Google document where people can sign up and send.
It's gonna look like this. All right.
I got the first dollar in Kickstarter for you. First buck right here.
I tell you what, and engrave a big middle finger on it like that. Like I screwed you, and you gave me money. Every time somebody picks up and vapes it, they'll know, like, I got screwed, and I'm vaping on the mod that I got screwed on. I think it'll be.
Well, if you got it, you wouldn't really be screwed.
By the way, I see Rodney's in the room, Ed's in the room. What's up, guys? We're going to go ahead and give away this spider mod because the person that won the spider mod last never messaged. Is that mind-blowing or what, Dane? I mean, you won a spider mod from Smoke Free Mods. By the way, I got to give a plug to Ed. He's my friend. There's no denying that. And I'm not trying to blow up his ego, but my Hannah, which now has gone into the Chinese paperweight pile, is not working. I contacted Hannah. I've already talked about the situation, but Ed Green was kind enough to say that he will fix it. So I'm going to send it to Ed, and he's going to fix it exactly the way it should be, and he's going to send it back to me. So the person that won the spider mod never contacted us. How crazy is that, Dane? I mean, that's nuts.
I know. I have used the spider, and I use it religiously, and it's a doggone good mod, and I know if I won one, I would have picked up the phone or messaged immediately. That's just me.
Wait a sec, I want a spider mod? Who do I have to email to get this? Wait, what's the spider mod?
It's a DNA 30.
Yeah?
Dual 18650 box mod.
Can I see it?
Yes, I got one right here. Here it is.
And of course you're gonna freeze as soon as you go to grab it.
Oh, hold on. Let me put me on the main camera. Okay.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, I bought one for me and one for the missus. This is like the long travel journey mod. But anyway, you're gonna win like this. This one's a DNA 20. You're gonna win a DNA 30. I do have the list here. Let me go ahead and just give this away. Hopefully we'll be able to give it away. Let me go screen share here. Here's our random more, guys. This is the same list that I used. By the way, everybody can see that? This is the same list that we used on the last drawing. What if the same guy wins? That's going to be pretty funny, isn't it? The guy that won never contacted us. I'm going to go ahead and randomize and pick
wait, before you do that.
Yeah.
Is my name on it?
No. Too late. Too late. I see Jay Poma. I see Mike Howard. I see Russ Dennis. Anyway, here's the whole list of all the people. And I'm going to randomize it. David Lomas. David Lomas. Lomas. You have won a DNA 30 spider box. What you have to do, and we'll give you until the next round table, because if you don't contact us, we're going to give it away. I'm going to keep giving this thing away until somebody wants to take it home. You have to inbox us on our YouTube channel, on the Vape Team Media channel, with your name and your address, and we'll forward it to Ed Green of Smoke Free Mods to send you finally this device. I hope it goes to a good home. Congratulations, David Lomas. What have I missed?
Hello, Dimitri. My name is
David Lomas.
Well, all these names were taken off YouTube based on your YouTube name, so you're gonna have to message us from that same entry that you participated in this contest.
YouTube.com, David Lomas.
Good try.
You know, we're talking about DNA mods, and they're coming in all shapes and sizes. I got this one here, which is a really unique form factor, too.
Is that the flask?
Yeah, vapor flask.
Yeah, I saw pictures of that in pre-production.
Yeah, and the best thing, one of the best features about this mod is how nicely the K-Fun sits on it, and it slides into your pocket, and it conforms to your leg, and it stays upright all the time. I can't tell you how many times I've had a device in my pocket, and it kind of shifts around with the change and everything. And he's got two 18650s in here, two of the Sony 18650s.
Yeah.
So really nice form factor. I think VapeRev got the first batch. They sold out within like 2 minutes. But
yeah, I got to use it while we were down in Texas. By the way, here's a nice comment from the chat. You know shit, Mike. That's coming from, of course, Dino and his shovel.
Is that in English?
Well, you know, Dino's from New York. He doesn't speak English.
Hey, you know shit, Mike.
He's from the Bronx Riviera.
Forget about it.
All right, we've taken this. It's 2.5 hours in. Way too long, way past what we originally had planned. But of course, I hope we got some information out there that people can take. Please, guys, be careful. If you're sub-ohming, get some information. Attend some of these classes. I know some of the vapor stores do have battery safety classes. I know at the VCC here in Chattanooga there'll be a battery safety class and a sub-ohm class. Take some of these classes, know what you're doing, and enjoy your vape. No matter how you vape, just do it safe and responsibly, and please don't take somebody else's head out. All right, let me start with my guest. Michael, your final thoughts.
Final thoughts. How about people that sell batteries put little stickers that say, do not vape below this resistance on the batteries?
Will that stop them?
No, it's not going to stop them, but for somebody who doesn't know anything about battery safety, at least they got something to go by.
I think that's a good idea. James?
If you're relying on the pulse amp rating of your battery, you're doing it wrong.
That is a great point, and something that's not being reiterated enough, in my opinion. By the way, here's another comment by Dino. Tell Mike I want him to make a mod, and I will fund it. You would fuck it up. That's exactly what he said. That's great.
You know that's on video, right?
Yeah. I mean, we have it.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm just saying, I got some ideas.
Okay. He's got some ideas, he said. All right, Dane. By the way, Dane, congratulations, appointed AIMSA field representative. Is that your title?
Consumer advocate now.
Consumer advocate at AIMSA. Congratulations on your appointment there.
Thank you very much. Please learn as much as you possibly can about the product you are putting between your lips, because it does matter, and it matters to me when I'm standing next to you. So please, if you're not thinking about yourself when you put that device between your lips, look at me and think of me. And I also have to say goodbye for Stephanie. Stephanie was having computer issues. She sends her love, best wishes, and best vapes to everyone, and she will see you very soon.
Poor Stephanie. She always has issues with Google+. I'll try to do a broadcast through Skype next time. By the way, that same advice, Dane, is what my mother-in-law gave to my wife before we got married. I just want to put that out there. All right. I hope at least you learned something on this roundtable episode of Vape Team Media. We always had some fun. Unfortunately, I couldn't do a smoke-free radio last night due to some prior commitments. I will be back next Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, with some wonderful guests. Subscribe to our channel. We got some more giveaways coming up. The Vape Team will be at ECC in Ontario, California. Then I will be at the eSig Industry Conference in Las Vegas, September the 23rd and 24th. And then October the 4th and 5th, Chattanooga Vaping Convention Circuit, vapingcc.com for more information. Over 40 national vendors already signed up to come to Chattanooga. That's just crazy. It's going to be a crazy event. Once again, thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time.